everybody, and welcome to the weekly stand-up. My name is Josh Miller, and who's in the chat? I think there's only one viewer right now, so you know what?
And I am Ali Thompson, serving as both co-host. Jessica is sick with COVID, so everyone, please send her lots of happy tweets and memes and all this other stuff.
Ali, I'm gonna wait until more people get in the,
in
the server before I do the intro.
Pretend this is the YouTube video.
It's true. This is at the end of the day a multi. It's
all about the YouTube
thing.
The Twitch is fine. The Twitch is fine, but it's about the YouTube.
Hey, Alina, first time chatter, Alina _OXO. How's it going? I like the cat emoji. How y'all doing today? Welcome. We can, you know what? The YouTubers will understand. We'll chill here. We'll talk. How's your weekend going so far, Ali?
It's been I might have mentioned this earlier, but running on 2 hours of sleep. But we're doing all right. Everything's been fantastic. Everyone's seeing for the first time what the back end really looks like. You see, I got this machine. This is my spare. This is for the part where we do all the streams. If I'm running the show instead of Mike, and then this is my thing for when I'm properly streaming myself, doing some video games. You can't see the machine too much there, but behind that there's lots of glowy bits. I've got a pretty cool machine back there. This is a really good chance. This episode and the last episode was a really good chance to see what behind the scenes can look like. Visually now, last time was
your desk looks a lot more professional than our usual tech director, Mike.
Wait,
so
are you serious? This is a mess. I got chest books here.
He's operating his whole situation off of a foldable, desk. So.
Fair enough. Hey, Frackle, what's up?
Hey, Frackle. I guess we could do the intro. Hello and welcome to another episode of the weekly stand-up. I can't believe we're on week 16 now, episode 16.
Is it really?
Isn't that wild? We've been doing this for a while. That's insane. So my name is Josh Miller. Usually my co-host Jessica Gonzalez, awesome union leader, someone pushing for collective action in the game industry. She is taking a break this week. She was out last week as well, but everybody deserves a break, as is our technical director, Mike. He's taking a break this week again. So once again, I'm blessed with the wonderful talents of our backup technical director, Mad Lad, or Allie. Yeah. We call you. I remember when we started this show, you were like, everyone knows me as my username, Mad Lad. So let's just use that name. And we did not commit to
Never
that at all.
That at all.
No, we switch back and forth all the time.
Yeah. No, we never stuck with it at all. And then I feel like anyone who's in my normal Twitch politics world is just like, wait, who's Allie? But it's fine. Week 16. Week 16 has been a thing. And don't forget, I also am communications director, so sometimes I send tweets and sometimes they go viral.
Communications director, you're our PR guy, our talent manager, our just golden boy, the glue that keeps the team together. Ollie Mad Lad. And you're one Mad Lad.
It's true. Also degenerate. I drink coffee out of whatever that is. By the way, I figured out what's the best alternate to milk for cereal.
Oh my god, I don't know. There is no alternate. There isn't. There is not.
Yeah,
it does not exist.
You meant is. It's called iced tea.
Literally, get fucked.
Imagine a bowl of cereal.
No, shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear about it.
And then put iced tea in it, and then you finish the cereal, and you know what you have left? Sweet tea.
The fuck up. Yeah, true. At least it's not orange juice. Fun fact about orange juice: when I worked I used to work in the audiovisual industry at a hotel, setting up all the tech for big events and stuff like that and conferences. And I worked with this guy who used to be in jail, and he was like, "Hey, check out this drink. It's really good." And he mixes orange juice and milk. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you, Jesse? And he's like, no.
No, it makes sense.
It tastes like a creamsicle.
It's a creamsicle. That's what I was going to say. It's a creamsicle.
I'm like, there's no way. Yes. This is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I take a sip and I'm like, holy shit, it tastes like a creamsicle.
And then imagine adding vodka to it. And you're like, well, I don't know if the vodka would...
Maybe. I honestly... that might be the move. I might need to do that next. I might try it. I'm afraid it might curdle, but I mean, espresso martinis, like
That's the
there are
trick.
drinks where it is a creamy consistency and
If you
alcoholic.
mix
So
the vodka with the orange juice first, maybe, and then use
yeah,
that proportionally to the milk proper, it'll
yeah.
probably be okay. You have to be careful.
Or some sort of cream, substitute. Like maybe it doesn't have to be milk, but like something else that would work.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
Like,
Hey, what's up? Thanks for the sub, Salvor Games. That's I appreciate it. And welcome for everybody who's a first time viewer. Uh, hey, got to be a Prime sub because my Web3 CEO laid us all off
oh,
this week.
holy
I am
sheesh.
so sorry. That sucks.
That's
So
awful.
right. I mean, right. This is a really tough week for Web3, for crypto NFTs, that whole space. Regardless of what you think of it, and the animosity you might have towards that space. I do feel for everybody who lost a lot of money this week, who lost their jobs. There have been massive layoffs all across the industry. So I feel for you, Salvor. It's unfortunate. Even though I truly don't love that space, the crypto space in particular. I lost significant sums of money this past month. Very, 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 very
I
significant
mean,
sums. So I'm right. I feel it. I feel it. It's
it's.
hard.
I kind of wonder if it's sort of like the internet bubble, because like in like 2000, like so the internet was big. Everyone's creating a website. Things were like rolling in the late 90s, and then
Yeah.
2000 like bubble popped and a bunch of websites like got defunct, job loss, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But
Oh, it's
like,
it's absolutely it's
yeah.
100% another bubble, and I knew it was a
Mhm.
bubble. I just invested in it hoping that I could get extract some value before the bubble popped, and I did for a while. I was up, and then I stayed in too long. And now, I mean, it's look, it's not just Web3, it's not just crypto, it's not just the space, it's the entire economy. We've talked a little bit about it on previous shows. Where we're heading into, a possible recession, possibly a Great Depression. Look at inflation, look at gas prices. The conflict in Europe certainly has not helped things
Oh
along.
man.
It's
Ugh.
like all of these things tie in. It's they're not these are not isolated industries. They all tie in together. So, you wouldn't think it based on our topic so far, but this is a video game oriented show today. Sometimes we get off topic, but I mean, even video
It's
games is
both. I
tied into
mean,
yeah, it's
workers'
it's
right,
all
like
tied.
yeah, workers' rights, video games.
The
That's like the
economy,
baseline.
all
But
of
like, you
this.
can't talk about workers' rights. You can't talk about the video game industry without like addressing like the giant elephant in the room, or the elephants that are looking to subvert. No pun intended. Okay, that was a pun intended, I guess. Looking to subvert you know the economy and kind of undermine our ability to regulate industry, right? Like, it's
Yes.
really really important to talk about like the political nature of everything. It's really important to talk about why things don't get done and how we can fix it. I mean,
Yep.
that's what I'm here for. That's what, and Jessica's all about it too, obviously, right? Like, Jessica's got like in the middle, right? Like, she worked at Blizzard, and then if you look at her tweets, she's got some fire tweets about all of our incompetent politicians. It's a mix, and I think
It
that's okay.
is.
I think that's okay.
You really you can't. I think it's hard to talk about like just video games without talking about the larger world that video games are a part of. So
No.
today we've got
Speaking
an
of
awesome
which,
show. Speaking of which, we've got a great show ahead of you today. I mean, I like to think every week we've got a great show, but objectively, we've had a few that maybe I don't know if I would personally glance
they're
about
fine. It's all
this
fine.
week.
It's all fine.
We've had a few that
So
have gone off the rails, but today we're going to be discussing. Oh, I'll let you take it away, Ali.
yeah, no, no. So we're gonna be talking about diversity in video games,
Mhm.
in a bunch of different ways. So this article came out a little ways back. It was Blizzard's new diversity game tool, and they talk about how one division of Activision Blizzard King came up with this and tried to apply it to Overwatch, and they're trying to imply that it was all corporate snafu, which, I mean, believable. Corporate snafus do tend to happen when talking about diversity,
Yep.
but I mean, it could just be like general ignorance as well, right? I feel, I mean, as a person of color who played video games my entire life, I found that it was very, very difficult to relate to video game characters, and like and not just that, but like a lot of different things that I encountered growing up playing video games. Um, So we're going to use this story, this event that happened about a month ago, to kind of talk about it with two friends, Aston Mack and Endless Cemetery. They both do politics on Twitch. They're both activists. I'm going to let them talk about their stuff when they get on. And just a few things here. So we've got the diversity tool. And there's like this idea that you can kind of like map out like a score for culture, ethnicity, age, ability, body type, gender identity, sexual orientation. And if you turn it into a number, you can then kind of like create some sort of average like smear of like culture in a video game that like sort of like demonstrates that corporations actively thinking about this stuff. And I mean, at the end of the day, something like this just kind of tokenizes um, us as a people, like just us generally as a people. Like, oh, we need a even like someone who's white, right? Like, we need a cis white male to be in this specific role, and these are the things that this person can do because we need to make sure that we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's. So yeah, there's like this image with Anna, and like what her score is. So the culture is like way up there. Her race score is really high, but her sexual orientation scores is really really low. So we're gonna have to figure out a way of getting more. We need to be able to celebrate Pride Month with some characters, so we're gonna have to find other characters to fill in that role, right? And I mean, we saw this earlier. And it's just, and then we've got like the overall look, right? Like these are all the support characters in the game, and then this is like a map of like all of their powers combined. We have diversity. It's very silly. Um,
I mean, it
yeah,
just feels incredibly disingenuous, right? Like it's trying to do stats on diversity, instead of just creating compelling characters, and letting diversity naturally like seep into them. Like when you try to, I don't. This feels like a finance bro came in and created an Excel sheet and was like, all right, we got to hit all these markers, and then gave that to the design team instead of just trusting the design team to create full, diverse, like cool characters that people want to play.
yeah.
It seems like a kind of backwards way of doing it.
Well, imagine what happens when you have corporate in charge instead of like just normal human beings wanting to do normal human being things or something.
And it's
Shocking.
just like this is what happens when you've got like white people making the decisions
No,
who
it's
know
not
that
even.
they have.
It's not even white people because like you're here, you're very white, and you're aware of how stupid this is, right?
But I would never try to release. I would never try to like create a tool like this.
Yeah,
It's
exactly. So like literally what it is when you've got corporate incentives attached to you and you have like these weird bottom lines that like look good on paper that don't actually help with anything whatsoever. Um we're gonna rant about this. Don't worry. So we've got two guests who will be joining us for this. We're gonna get Aston and Endless in here right now. So stay tuned. Did you have any final words before I do the thingy where I push the button and everything should work this time instead of last week when it didn't work?
no. I'm ready to dive in. I mean, there's so much I want to talk about, so we might as well just bring them in here
Yeah,
and
yeah.
get the
Okay, cool.
conversation going. Yeah, let's do
So
it.
everyone cross your fingers. I think I did it right this time. So you can hear me now, yeah? Cool. Oh wait, is this not gonna work? Oh, it's still working. Okay, I didn't fix the problem. Sorry, audience. You're gonna be hearing this again. I didn't mean for it to work this way. Stay put, Josh. Don't say anything. I'll be there in a second. Yeah, yeah. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Hey guys, how's it going? We're almost ready. Can you hear me? Oh wait, no. Whoop, 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 whoop. We're almost ready. All right, hold on. We got this. I got my camera on. Everything is activated. And then we're going to push the button, and hopefully I did this right. We'll see what happens, because, well, here it is. We did it. And when we cut it into the YouTube video, it's just going to be perfect. Twitch gets to see the behind the scenes. That's what you guys pay for.
Look,
Or what you get for showing up, I should say. You're not paying for it just yet. Unless you want to. Highly recommend doing that.
it's like I said, the jank is a feature, not a bug. It's part of the process.
It's the ambiance.
So, I'd love to introduce you guys. Let's start with you, Ashton. Tell me what you're all about.
My name's Aston. I am an activist down in the city of Orlando, Florida. I stream about praxis and like what you can do to help your community and stuff of that nature. I was turned into a black anarchist by the guy sitting right next to me.
He has an effect on people.
I'll put that hat on, and I'm just on the topic. I used to work at GameStop. I used to be heavily involved in the video game scene. I'm huge into esports. Used to run the largest competition by participant in the world, which was the Collegiate Star League. We had like 500 colleges involved at one point. So
wow.
Yeah.
Wicked
awesome.
Cool. Super cool.
Yeah, so you worked at GameStop. Did you get in on that GME, that GameStop at its peak?
No. I worked at GameStop like a decade ago. Okay,
got you.
Yeah.
And Endless Cemetery, happy to have you on as well. Tell me what you're all about.
Awesome. I'm just kind of a gamer. I guess a black anarchist. I'll wear that hat. I also worked at GameStop back in. I worked there between the years 2006 and 2009. So I definitely came way before and way after anything cool happened. But yeah, I kind of play Mortal Kombat 11, and lately been playing Hunt Showdown. And
I fucking love Hunt Showdown.
Hunt Showdown's amazing,
it's phenomenal.
I also co-host a podcast with my housemate called The Bolsheviks, and it's just kind of about we cover like local news. There's been like mad unionization efforts happening locally, so we get people to like interview and talk with them about that whole process and challenges and like benefits and stuff of why they would be pushing for that sort of thing, and who tries to stop it and who benefits from them not having that type of stuff. So it's been pretty cool. And I guess that's kind of where my praxis comes into play, I guess. I do fundraisers on my stream. Like I try to do one like every month or so. And yeah, we try to get as many people as possible to talk about like in the workplace, just like organizing the workplace and getting those different intersections of experience as well from just the different types of people we talk to. Baltimore is a pretty diverse city, so it's a lot of different intersecting experience.
Yeah, absolutely, and we love unions here, so it's awesome to hear that you're involved in pushing for that and covering that sector, because I think it's only going to continue to blow up, this grassroots movement. If you see the trajectory and where it's going, like,
it's a really exciting time. I won't lie, I was kind of doom repelled at the beginning of COVID because I was like, why isn't this already happening? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like the first like 5-6 months where I was like totally like Mad Max pilled, where I was like, nah, we're just gonna, it's never gonna happen. But sure enough, over the last like, probably I would say I've noticed the last like 6 months to a year or so, it's been a noticeable change in demeanor of, I feel like it wasn't so much that COVID happened, but them just trying to be like, all right, cool, now everybody go back to work. And we just being like, nah, fam, it's not.
Yeah,
fuck that.
when you think about it, like COVID gave everybody the opportunity to step back. A lot of people lost their jobs, and some people didn't have to work during that time. So everyone kind of got a chance to step back, analyze their lives, analyze what really
Well,
matters,
so
and also not like kill themselves to work for these companies that don't
Yeah,
care about them.
facts.
kinda. I want to say COVID actually highlighted how stratified our society actually is. Like
That
some of us
too.
were really super lucky. I got to stay at home
Yeah.
for COVID. I didn't have to go out, but I knew a
Right.
lot of people who were hourly who were like, they
True.
had to work,
Yeah.
That's true.
and
That's absolutely true.
then they're being criticized for like taking time off and going on trips and shit. But like, no. They've been working this whole time. They have every right to
Facts.
go to a different state and do all these other things and be skeptical of. I mean, honestly, this was coming from the left. Being skeptical of the Democratic Party, saying, "Oh no, you're a bad person for doing this, that, and the other," when they've been exposed to COVID repeatedly for months. So
Yep.
yeah, I was privileged as hell. I got away. I got to stay at home. I got to work on my stream. I got to do all this other shit. I got to have a good time with it. And like the whole time while I was
Same.
doing this, though, like I was just thinking, like, man, this kind of sucks for a lot of other people. And I wish, like, and I mean, I think that's what it comes down to is like people are realizing that they were treated like fodder. And then there's those of us, even those of us who are on unemployment, were able to take advantage of the system. Like trying to maintain those benefits was actually really hard.
That was nuts.
It was crazy as hell. Like
I didn't get them, but the people I knew that had them, and I heard that all the hoops you had to jump through was nuts.
I missed
Yeah.
one piece of paperwork. All right, one piece of paperwork, and I was off. And like there was no institutional recourse to fix it, and it was fine. I mean, I was like very careful because I wasn't expecting the money to like last or whatever. I thought it could be interrupted at any time, but like, if I was really in dire straits, that would have sucked.
Yeah, it took me months to because the phone lines that they had to get any sort of support for any of that stuff, they were like you had to call first thing in the morning. There's like a 5-minute window, and then the phones would just be jammed up all day. So it took months to get that sorted out. And fortunately, and to give you guys some background on my work background and all that stuff, I was very fortunate about the midway point of the pandemic. During which I moved back to my parents' farm. I always kind of joked that if the world ever ended, I would just move back to the farm, and
I
that's
feel like
exactly
that's the
what I did.
apocalypse plan. You just hit your parents up like.
It was the world literally ended. I'm like, all right, we got chickens, we got cows, we got pigs, like everything I need. Went out every morning and got some fresh eggs, so it was tight. But I was super fortunate. Got offered a gig on the Overwatch League during the middle of the pandemic. Always wanted to work for Blizzard. Right after graduating college, like many years ago, I worked as a QA tester at Activision, and then just did not make a living wage back then. So I left the industry for a while. But mid-pandemic, got a job as a video editor on the Overwatch League, which then transferred into the Call of Duty League and working on BlizzCon and all that stuff. And this was like peak, like Bobby Kotick being a shitbag. All of the shit going down, layoffs across the company, just everybody in our Slack channel. There's like a dedicated Slack channel. Like everyone's going off.
I was gonna say on that QA thing in unions. Did you see that we got the first unionized group of QAs?
Yes.
In California.
Yep.
Wait, in California, or are you talking about the one in Wisconsin? Is it something?
Oh, Wisconsin. I think it is Wisconsin.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Jessica was there. She flew out to.
Yeah, my usual co-host Jessica Gonzalez she's part of like the union leadership at the GWA that's helping organize all that stuff and the Raven strikes and all that stuff. And news actually came out I think yesterday that oh dude, Raven, those guys are awesome.
Quake 4 was one of my favorite games of all time.
Yo, you have such good taste. I love Quake. That campaign, like what an underrated game. That was like being a space marine going to fight the Strogg. Like,
getting Stroggified, spoiler
yes. And the cast of like buddies that you have, like it was awesome. So that's a great jumping off point. Like that was a maybe not the most diverse cast of characters.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think there was one black Marine in your squad, and everybody else was your usual white Marine. So this, speaking of Blizzard, you guys have all seen the diversity tool, or at least I'm assuming you guys have. Have you seen the chart that came out? Yeah.
I have not. Admittedly, I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, cool. Let's bring that up. Ali, can we bring up the diversity tool?
Yeah, I have just the thing. Let's pull it up right there. Yeah, there it is.
Awesome.
So it's gonna show up on stream. It's not gonna show up on this stream because I'm not Mike. I don't have the powers that Mike has in terms of making this look good.
He's a tech wizard.
I'm borderline incompetent, but yeah. So this is the original article talking about it. Basically, they had this diversity tool where they just like kind of make some stuff up. Like these are what was it? 7 different measures of what diversity is.
Yeah, so
And
there's a culture category, an ethnicity category, age,
looking at
ability, body type, gender identity, sexual orientation. So it's just trying to quantify a tool to quantify diversity in characters. And I would love your opinion on this because, like, to me, it seems like a backwards way to create
I was gonna
diverse
say,
characters.
like it seems like, I don't know.
So could I hop in on this one because
You go first.
let me explain what it is, and it means very well, but I'm just going to call it what it is. We have this idea that neutral spaces are neutral. That neutral spaces we could just assign stats, whatever, or even if you look at government spaces or school spaces, or we feel like they're neutral, but that's only because you're white. For us, they don't feel neutral. So when this chart right here, it feels like a very, very like white attempt of quantifying like cultural diversity because they have this idea that neutrality is somehow neutral, when the reality is it's not just like a check mark, right? Like a socioeconomic status isn't just like a check mark for diversity. It actually has livable effects on the psychology of a character. It's not just a quality that I can have, like being 5'7" or having a pinky finger that's longer or shorter, right? A socioeconomic status will actually change how I perceive the world around me, right? Your perception is reality. I hope all of you guys at home aren't shocked or out there by this, but realize that your personal perception is not actually an accurate depiction of the world. None of ours is. It's very subjective and it's informed by our environments. And that's what you're going to miss. Like, you can't just say, oh, by the way, we had this discussion on Vosh's channel once when we were talking about it's very obvious to black people when you have white black actors playing white characters. Like, it's not like the narrative will tell you that they're black. Like, it's not like they're like a white character that we're just saying is black. No, I'm saying like it's a black character that in the world is black, but to us it is very obvious that that's not a black character, and it's because of the way that they interact with the world around them. And this is what I go back to, like, each of those notches isn't just like a stat, like a story or a blurb you can insert in somebody's biography, but instead a change in personal standpoint and understanding, and that's not going to get translated by this thing, and that's always the problem.
Because
in the first place.
Because that was like my first thought was like, all right, I guess it seems cool, like it seems like a good idea, but coming off of directly what you were saying, it's just kind of like you would understand so much more if you didn't view the whole issue of diversity so much as like boxes that needed to be ticked, as much as you would like understand from just going out and like drawing experience maybe from your employees or people from their neighborhoods or whatever, like, because it kind of works to devalue those qualities when you just have them as boxes ticked and you don't have like the fullness and like the I don't know if I'm putting this adequately, but like just like the fullness of a person of like a trans Latino woman from New York or something like that. You know what I mean? Like just like the fullness of that experience where you're just like, okay, just like with what Aston was saying, like we have this character written completely and their entire life experience and their motivation is already made, but we're just going to make this character black. Like, and it can come across really weird.
Yeah, because this whole chart, it's very surface level. It's all aesthetics. It's how do these characters look? But there's so much more to the characters. How do they interact with the other characters? What are their voice lines?
Right.
Like there are so many other ways you can incorporate that.
Yeah, and I actually like what Frackle says in chat. If you actually have diverse people designing your characters and stories and give them free reign to do so, you naturally get the diversity.
Exactly.
And that's the point.
That is the right way to do it.
The problem is that you've got, I mean, and maybe I'm making an assumption by saying white people, but I'm just going to go with it for the sake of just getting through this real quick.
For the purposes of the argument.
Yeah, you've got white people designing characters that aren't white and trying to like make this like sort of like superficial mask based on attribute without actually having like the relevant experiences to produce something that's authentic. It's a lack of authenticity that's like the deep problem with this idea of a chart.
And it's not just a hypothetical, Mad Lad. It's I mean, as someone who I don't have experience on the writing team, of course, but speaking from my personal experience in the post-production and esports side of Blizzard, our team was mostly white dudes. It was it's seriously like our leadership, always addressed it like, yes, we know we need to do better. We know we need to like hire more diverse crew, but you never saw it happen. And they acknowledged that they had trouble finding like qualified diverse candidates, but that's still like, okay, maybe you have to do a little more work, like go out, do some headhunting, like search for those diverse people, because they're not always going to come to you if you don't have an environment where maybe they want to work.
Or maybe the qualifications are bogus and those qualifications don't apply. And it's
agreed. Give more people a shot. Give more people a chance. There was a point where I didn't have the resume to work at Blizzard, and it ultimately came down to a guy giving me a shot, and more people deserve that shot.
I really want to comment on that last point too, because this is the thing, and this is a common line that's used by white executives. Matter of fact, you saw this in movies for the longest time. The idea that there's qualifications that are somehow not being met by people of color when it's talking about these jobs. But how is that possible? Maybe like 10 years ago, when it was only like 26% of black kids or something played video games, but now today it's like 89. If you look at it, like every kid of every race, of every group, like video games are accessible enough in the United States that if you are a young child, especially if you're socialized male, you're probably playing video games. So you're going to tell me that you cannot find among any of those people that play video games their whole lives anyone interested in making maybe some video game characters? Because I can tell you, I'm right here. Like I've like from this very issue that we have about representation in video games is something that drove me to want to write stories with black people in them, and it's such a weird out of body experience, like growing up in this world, right? Like I'll be sitting there and I basically get one of three characters I get to play. Like, hey, shout out to Barrett from Final Fantasy VII. Like, you know what I mean? Like, or insert.
There was James Heller from Prototype too.
Yeah, insert random black guy that knows Brazilian capoeira. Like, you know what I mean? Like in whatever generic fighting game. Like that's about all we get, right? And what happens, and what people I think don't understand is they think, oh, that's because you want to see more characters. No, what happens is when I go to school, I'm only allowed to be like one of three characters, especially since back when I was coming up, being a blurred wasn't a thing. That character type wasn't in the mainstream media. It wasn't popular. So anytime I tried to just exist as a black nerd, you get called out for not fitting into the stereotypes that they see in their video games. So it's this frustrating cyclical thing. And you know what's even worse, bro? Like the feeling of those character builders. Like there's nothing worse than being like, I gotta make my character white because it's the only way they don't look goofy.
Even Elden Ring didn't really have any like black hairstyles.
Yeah.
This is the topic I wanted to get to, so I'm glad you brought it up. One of a theoretical solution to fix this problem is, okay, have a character customization, a character builder where you can create a character that you relate to. But the issue is that so many of these character creators they half-ass the job when it comes
They
to
fuck
any
it up.
character that isn't white. Yeah, they
Here,
like
I'm gonna rant for
like-
just a second. Let me just rant. I'm just gonna rant. I'm just gonna get this out because it pisses me off. So I played World of Warcraft for years, okay, and they
were you a Night
finally.
Elf Mohawk?
Hey,
I have one of those. But I'll tell you what, that mohawk doesn't look like my hair. I'm just saying right now. They had Mr. T on the promos even, and then anyway, you can do your best, right? You can get like the skin tone kind of a little bit right, whatever else, but the hair is never gonna line up. They don't give a shit. They will give you 20 different heads of hair for every European ethnicity you can imagine, and different European hairstyles, but not one fucking afro. Where's my afro?
I will
That's
say-
all I want.
I will say Demon X Machina was a game that was perfect in so many ways, but they actually had black hairstyles. Like they actually had like the dreadlocks to the side. Like I actually made a character that looked like me. It was
Yeah.
pretty tight.
The first time I actually had that experience was Star Wars: The Old Republic, where you could have like the top knot dread, like Sith Lord, but that was it. Still, even then, like there's still no friend.
Yeah,
There's no
I did
like.
the Old Republic too. I had I made like a black Boba Fett, like with dreadlocks. That was me.
Yeah.
That's fine.
You know what gets frustrating sometimes? Like, and this is going to sound again really petty, but have you ever played those games where they have white dreadlocks that look better than the black, like Frodo dreadlocks? And you're just like,
yeah,
what the fuck?
yeah. It's like they came so
What do you
close.
do?
That would piss me off.
Like you're just sitting in the game and you're like, how is it that you only put effort into it when it's like not us? Like, come on.
And
This is
Aston, you brought up Elden Ring. I watched a hilarious fucking parody where it was like, it might not have been. Elden Ring's a good example because it's another game where there aren't a lot of options, but I think it was like a Final Fantasy parody where it was like, oh, like cool, I'm excited to play this game. Okay, I'm gonna make a character that looks like me. Oh, there's one option, and it's an afro. So okay, he messages customer support and he's like, I want more diverse options. Like this is ridiculous. And they're like, support's like, yeah. We'll send that to the development team. We'll get on that. They patched the game. He's like, okay, cool. I'm excited to see what they patched it with. And they just changed. There's still just one option. They just changed it. Now the afro's out, and it's one more. It's just like.
Wait, was it Aston? Are you playing or was it Endless? Were you playing Elden Ring? Who's playing?
I brought it up,
Both of you?
but
Oh, okay, you brought it up. Okay, because I haven't touched
But,
it yet. Is it like
I haven't really played it in a while.
Okay.
I got bored with
Cool.
it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the Dark Souls games kind of bore me now.
I want an Armored Core. I'm waiting for Armored Core.
Bro, don't even get me started. I need an Armored Core in my life injected in my fucking vein.
That's the rumor, is that's what the next game from Soft's working on, is like the writers from Expanse are helping them work on.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah, that's the
exciting.
rumor. Yeah, I'm really
Okay.
excited about that. Yeah.
And in this day and age, if we could get some Armored Core online, like you could do like, oh man, the builds,
So-
and you could play.
Speaking of that, I want everybody's like keeps dismissing it, but I want to see a new Extreme G. No one remembers Extreme G.
I don't know what that is. I gotta look that up.
It's like there was some of my favorite, probably my top 5 video game soundtracks of all time for sure.
Oh,
Between the
I
first
remember
game.
Extreme G. This is
Yeah.
the fucking futuristic motorcycle.
Motorcycles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bro.
Oh,
With the
okay.
weapons, you could shoot rockets and stuff at people during the race. Yeah.
Oh, it's
That
like
was-
combat racing. Okay.
Yeah, you could focus more on the racing, or you could focus more on the combat, depending on which game you played and like later in the series. But yeah, it was perfect. It was one of those perfect gaming experiences where it's like, it was one of those games I was really sad to see kind of get forgotten about. I don't know where that IP went, who has it, or what happened to it, but
So another thing, coming back to the character builder. So let me tell you, because I want to walk you through all the layers of it that make it weird. Because it's not just so after you make your character, there's a whole game, right? And this is the thing that happens, right? I'm the only black person in this entire fucking fantasy world, and no one somehow nobody ever mentions it. Like they all pretend like it doesn't have like it's these worlds that somehow don't have racism but do have racism, but just not against the one black guy in the whole fantasy world. Like fill your towns with black people. And you know what's even fucking weirder? It's those like they'll do the diversity thing where it'll be like 5 people, right? And then one black person will be in like a group of people, right? And you're like, all right, but where are his parents? Where is his like family? Why is there just and it's like and I'm serious, it's like how is it possible? Or there'll be like one black elf. Is there like a world out there that we're not seeing? Like give us some fucking black towns, Jesus Christ. Or like, and it doesn't just have to be black towns, it could be anything towns, but it's just so strange and alienating going through a world where it's just like, ooh, it's very obvious that we're shoehorned in there.
Yeah. It's an
Speaking of,
afterthought.
and it's not just in video games; it's all across media. And one IP I want to talk about. I don't know if you guys are Lord of the Rings fans at all. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. There's that new Amazon TV show coming out, and there's all that outrage about black elves. Now, do you like? What are your thoughts on this? Are you guys happy to see black representation within the elven race, or does it feel like a shoehorned attempt?
For me, it was weird because like I've never been a huge Lord of the Rings fan, but I'm like a huge metal nerd, so like I have like this tangential like familiarity and understanding of the whole like lore and all that stuff. So one of the criticisms I saw of the like, and I don't know how accurate it is, it's just something I've seen of J.R.R. Tolkien was the fact that like all like before this, all of the dark skinned people in that universe were like part of the evil races or whatever.
Yep.
So it's weird having like seeing like black elves and stuff against the background of that, but at the same time, it's cool. If it's a dope TV show that's interesting, I'll watch it and it seems cool. Like
it's a nuanced question, right? Because there's 2 layers to this. So on the one hand, representation is good. Representation is fantastic because, like I said, it allows for me to have a fucking character I can cosplay at a convention, right? It allows for me to enter into spaces that I wasn't allowed in. By the way, cosplayers, I'm looking at you. You're racist as fuck. Okay, let's just be real. Like you don't care how many of you guys portray Japanese Midoriyas, but as soon as one nigga wants to be like Titus from Final Fantasy X, y'all have a fit. It's insane, right? Like we haven't played fighting games where we have alternate skins. Like, please, you understand that they're fucking characters.
That's
right.
That's so true.
But it's not lore accurate.
Yeah. Let me whip it. Like, bro, please. Like, we're all like, hello, it's a fantasy. It's all made up in the first place. The fact that you get like bent out of shape about the rules about Harry Potter, like, what is wrong with you? But anyways, the thing is like I said, when you shoehorn them in, honestly, it provides a darker narrative that I think needs to get explored. Because if we only have like 2 elves, are they like the survivors of like some like elf apocalypse where all the black elves are like wiped out? What is the story? Because it's clearly more interesting than whatever the fuck is going on in the show.
True.
Oh, that's a really good point. I didn't even think about that. Like, how do you, like, from a story perspective, explain the complete lack of black elves in the movies, and then like was there a genocide in between the Amazon series and the movies that we watched?
I want to see that show.
And that's the thing where I keep trying to explain to people, like, listen, I'm going to be real, and I'm just being honest. No nigga ever told you to make 2 black elves, because if it was a nigga, he would have included all the shit that I just said, and that's where we get into the issues of like of representation coming from the white majority. And I want to be clear about something, because this is something that Allport talked about, which is contact theory, which is if you're trying to lower prejudice between 2 groups, right, the first step is to have them meet, but they have to meet eye to eye. That's why employees and bosses don't work when we try to use contact theory to lower the biases between them, because bosses are always going to be in a position above the employee. So if you're not having black people in like they can't just be black animators or black writers. You need the black editors. You need the black producers. You need the black directors, because you need black people in positions of power to make calls on things, so that then you can actually say, okay, there's a black influence on this. And that's what I think a lot of the time is missing. And a lot of the diversity hires are missing this too. You actually find out that the video game industry as a whole is one of the, especially in the executive boards, is one of the whitest fields out there right now. It's crazy. Like, you don't even in amongst other tech companies. Like, if you look at like the Googles or the search engines or even the crypto bros are more diverse than the video game industry. And it's what like are we ever going to talk about that? Like, isn't it weird how there's like none of us up there?
I think a big problem is the video game industry is filled with nepotism. The way a lot of people get jobs is the right person, right? So if white people are in positions of power, generally speaking, who are their friends? More white people, and not to be like not to throw shade on gamers, because I'm a gamer, but also it's usually white men. There's a lot of gamers that don't have a lot of female friends, so it's not just a white thing, it's a white male thing. And that's how so many of these positions get filled by additional white men, because it's just those are their social circles, those are the people that they know. And I don't know the solve for this. Go out, meet more people, make new friends. Like
Twitch has been cool for that, for like meeting different people who are into different like games and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think Twitch has definitely helped with that. Actually, I think that's like a big part of just because like anyone who has, I mean, I guess there's like the socioeconomic like limitation, right? Like, as long as you have a computer, then you can get on Twitch and then you can demonstrate your personality, etc., etc. But like, I mean, I guess you can participate as a chatter at the very least. Like, everyone has a cell phone, and most everyone might be interested in like seeing people play video games on some level. So it is like allowing for a lot more mixing, and like Twitter surprisingly has been like relatively good for that as well. Like, I kind of hate the platform for a lot of different reasons. And by the way, Endless, your tweets have been fucking hilarious. Every day I look at your tweets and just cackle. Like,
I choose violence.
Yeah, you choose violence every day, and you know what? I'm here for it.
Yeah, Jess does the same thing every time.
No, I'm so bummed that Jess is out this week, because like, you guys would have gotten.
Oh, she would go off.
Yeah, no, we'll do this again with Jess around too, because like I want you guys all to hang out, because we can do some like active shit. Like, I want to get some like
nice
cross pollination like activity, IRL praxis. Like, let's just get some shit done. Just
get some collabs.
Yeah, like, there's a lot of things to be done. But
I mean, Twitch also suffers from nepotism. Like, when you look at the top Twitch streamers, like just look at them. That's all you got to do.
We have been having this conversation, we'll say, on a different level for a different like little microcosm of Twitch. But yeah, for the platform as a whole, it's definitely also a thing.
Yeah, like the top streamers: Ludwig, Hassan, Mizkif, Pokimane, like all of these people, like these are people. Hassan, I think I said Hassan already, but like these are people who are all friends with each other, right? And so they elevate each other, and they just like they use their social circle to make their friends also Twitch famous.
Yep.
And then everybody
so
below that line.
There's a smidgen of diversity there, but like the thing is, like, there's a difference between ethnic diversity,
spicy mayo,
and cultural diversity, which is like saying, like, yeah, you've got a completely different background from me, but we like vibe in these areas. We're gonna hang out, we're gonna do shit together, we're gonna collab, we're gonna have a good time, and like building each other's platforms, not just because you've had like the same cultural experience. Like, I feel like humans bond over cultural experience more than anything else. And so, like, maybe part of the solution is to make sure everyone has a similar cultural experience. And then, COVID kind of helped with that on some level. But with that in mind, I think it's also important for folks to just, like, kind of take chances when it comes to, like, how they engage. Like, I think breaking these cultural boundaries and, like, learning that, like, difference is fine is, like, a big part of it. But we're about to... Go ahead, Aston. I'm going to rant about one more thing, but it's fine. We'll do it in a second.
I was just going to say, first of all, the answer is go out and talk to black people. I promise we don't bite. Seriously. Listen, it's like y'all love, trust me, if you guys listen to the radio, you love our culture, okay? Like, come on. We're cool. We can all be cool. But the biggest issue is always going to be accessibility, right? Accessibility and the nature of that it always creates a thing where the rich and the bourgeois are going to get something first, and because they they get that in there first. That's kind of like the founders, right? That's always the group that gets to set up shop and set up the capital accumulation machines before everybody else, right? And then by the nature of capitalism it by itself, when something gets big enough, say you're lucky, right? Say I'm an indie person, I got a cool set of circumstances that made it so that I have a very artsy indie company that's super diverse. What do you think happens when you get popular? As soon as you get popular, you get bought. And as soon as you get bought, you're right back to the same power structures that we were dealing with before, and it has a lot to do with that, and also the way that we're trying to maximize our capital accumulation like makes us come up with really bad algorithms, right? Our algorithms come up with like these almost like what's the word when you make something happen by saying something will happen? I can't think of it right now.
Self-fulfilling
prophecy.
Yeah, self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like, because a lot of white people were clicked on, it's going to show everybody more white people, which is going to get more white people clicked on, which is going to make them show them more white people, and then that becomes the basis of these algorithms, because nobody in engineering thought for 2 seconds, well, maybe there might be some holes into this, like how this thing will set off initially, but now we're so far down the road that it's like, what are you going to do with these structures besides, tear them down from the top?
Really interesting about that is like it reminds me of like the whole Google search issues that they've had, like the racist Google searches, where like you'll search for something and then the image search will just like pop up with some shit that's like racist as fuck, and they don't realize this is a problem right off the bat. Like the algorithms are busted. Like this should be a clear indicator that there's something wrong with the algorithms. And as far as I can tell, I don't think they actually really fixed the problem. I think they were like, oh, well, we better make sure that the racist stuff doesn't appear. But they didn't really consider what's wrong with the algorithm or why these clicks aren't happening. Like it's like this equity thing that, and I guess I've been kind of corrected on this. Like I used to think for a brief period of time, there's there's like this difference between equality and equity, right? Like equality, everyone gets the same rules. Equity is making sure that like some folks get additional access so that they can participate in the system equally, right? But you're being given a little bit of an advantage to make up for the lack of equality at the beginning. But and maybe I don't know if this terminology is still correct. And I can't remember why it was decided that I wasn't being correct. I don't remember now. But I think like I'm just going to use this, I guess, framework for what I'm going to say here. I think like in terms of Google searches and all this other stuff, there is this measure of equity that needs to be put in where we're actually looking hard at these algorithms, these natural algorithms that are a natural result of like our culture and society as is, which has, a certain amount of systemic racism just built in, and saying, okay, if we want to correct for this and kind of diminish this over time, how do we do that? And then kind of go from there on some level. But there has to be like an investment, there has to be effort, time, money, all that other stuff.
We also have to let go a lot of our weird assumptions, right? Because a lot of the reason why we're in this place is because they looked at the people that were playing video games and they said that, oh, that's white guys from 18 to 34, so that's why we need our characters to be white guys, right? And the reality is, let's be honest, Endless, how long have you played video games? Your whole life?
Yeah.
So you managed to play as white people and still enjoyed the video game? It's weird. Weird. Yeah. It's almost like that's something that we just made up.
Like a lot of my favorite games, like there's Prototype 2 and there's Mortal Kombat, obviously. But I've had to play the vast majority of my favorite games of playing as characters that were not even remotely close to me in terms of their physical identity or like their lived experience. And
Yeah.
even then, like I'm not a special forces. Like I have no desire to be a fucking special forces like master interrogator. You know what I mean? Like super cop, but it's Jax Briggs all day. You know what I mean?
Right, that's got to be like really off-putting when a character,
Yeah.
like the people that you physically relate to, maybe their character kit is not, like their move set or whatever, and then the character kit that you do want to play as is fucking super cop. Like that's got to be
Right.
super off-putting.
Well, I mean,
It's just
well, I was just gonna say, like, I played a fuck ton of Soul Calibur, right? Like Soul Calibur 4
yeah.
was like my big like what, and like I thought Zazalamel.
Zazalamel
I
was
got like
lit.
the one right, and then I'm like, but and like his toolkit's cool. Don't get me wrong. Like I like the scythe, I like doing the things, but like at a certain point, it felt like it was like a little too easy, right? Like I like to play the characters that like require a little bit more finesse, requires like a little bit of skill. So I played Sophidia exclusively. That was like my
Sophia?
Taki.
Sophidia. Taki.
Oh,
Yes.
fucking Sophia.
Like
Oh.
just like short range, but like you're fast, you're quick.
I
you
just
gotta
like the dodge roll. Like Taki.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Taki.
We all knew,
I didn't even get really mad.
we all knew what I meant.
Yep.
Oh
Yep.
yeah. You love it. You love it. You love it.
Mitsubishi all day.
Mitsubishi. That's the name of the character.
You know what's strange? And let me ask you guys.
Mitsubishi.
Let me ask you what you think. Isn't it odd that don't you feel and maybe I don't want to get canceled for saying this, but I feel like women in video games are far better represented than multiple ethnicities in video games.
So this is a tricky one. And I actually want to, on some level, I wanted to make this a bigger panel where we had like a few voices, like
Yeah, that's why I'd love to hear from a woman.
Yeah, and so I wasn't quite able to make that work yet, but I've got like part 2 in mind. I'm gonna like figure it out, make this happen. So I think it's gonna be really hard for us to answer that question. Just
I
generally
don't want to
speaking.
say anything that's gonna make Jess yell at me.
I mean, Jess might.
Yeah.
I mean, we could here. We'll hit her up on. Here, I'll be like, hey, what do you think, Jess?
Yeah. I mean, right, my gut check is yes, just because
I was gonna
generally
say, yeah.
like you get like, and again, this is just a gut check. I don't have stats on this, but I'm gonna say that like in the fighting in most fighting games and games like Overwatch, where there's a large character pool of preset characters that you have to choose from, generally, or like League of Legends or any of those games really. I want to say it's like 60-40%, right? 60% male, 40% female, or maybe 5% alien, some weird ass fucking, cat
like some
creature or
Blizzard
whatever.
robot, whatever.
Yeah, demon.
So
Yeah.
gut check is it's not perfect, but it's better. And then you'll get 10-15%, like black or Asian representation,
I
or
think
Hispanic stuff like
so.
Well, I
that.
mean, think about this though, like, and because we're talking about games that have lots of characters, but just talk about games with one character. How many leading black guys are there in games? Like we named one. Prototype is the one where it's the leading black guy. We've got Barrett in like a Final Fantasy, but the reality is like all I have to do is turn on my PS4 right now and play some Horizon Zero Dawn. You know what I mean?
Facts.
So I have.
I was gonna say there's Mafia 3 as well. I can't remember that dude's name. I didn't play that.
Mafia
game.
3 is sick. But yeah, the stats go way down when you're talking about lead characters. I mean, technically Kratos is black or whatever because it's the ashes
Is he?
of his I think he was black and
It's
then
the
the ashes, or sorry,
Negro.
or Parisian, and then the ashes of his dead family is what made him
Wait.
white.
Are you serious? Is that a thing?
It's something like
he
that.
called Kratos Dusty to his face.
GTA 4 from Salvor Games. I guess
Right?
maybe. I haven't. A lot of these games I haven't actually played. Like I tend to
Is
play
it
like 2
4
or
or is
3.
it 3? Is it GTA 3? I know the
I
one
think
he's
it's
talking about,
3.
the one that's San Andreas.
It's,
Right?
it's not 4. I think it's 3.
San Andreas, CJ from
Yeah,
San
San
Andreas.
Andreas is the one.
Or is it 2?
I just want to actually reference chat real quick, by the way, while we've got this pause. Frackle said something terrifying, which is YouTube autoplay will automatically trend towards reactionary.
Oh
right
yeah,
content.
I saw that.
What
I believe
the?
it.
Holy shit, that's crazy.
Mhm.
We all want to be cat boys. I mean, In some games, maybe. Sure. You know what? Whatever. What's really weird, though, I feel like it's easier to be a cat boy in some of these games than actually get an afro. All I'm saying. I was looking
Low-key.
at... I was playing Solaris. It's like a space game, spacefaring game. You get to do some genetic engineering, eugenics stuff on some level, if you get your tech trees right, whatever else. But the point is, there's lots of profiles and hairstyles in this game to facilitate all of this, right? And low key, going back to the whole women versus minorities in a video game, there are like I added it all up because I was just like really curious. There's like something like 48 different like faces, hairstyles, etc., for men in the game. And I'm not saying just men generally speaking. I mean like white men, like skin tones, hairstyles, straight hair, whatever else. And then you've got like 8 hair types that could be African or curly at least, and then there were 8 female hairstyles, and that's it. Which is crazy to me because I feel like women do more with their hair than men.
Yeah.
Just generally speaking, how the fuck did they mess this up?
Yeah.
Like, you know, the developers are.
I guess they were like
themselves,
they thought what their prime demographic was going to be, and we're just like, all right, we'll just cater to them, and then.
I don't even know if it goes that deep. Like, what I'm wondering is, like, did they even consider the possibility of asking, like, you know, a significant female in their lives, hey, what hairstyle would you want for your species of human in this video game?
It really would be that simple, though.
It really is.
Sometimes I like to think too about the implications of a lot of the worlds of games, because you mentioned Stellaris, and it made me think all the futuristic video games don't got no niggas either. And it's like, what are you trying to say is happening to us? You know what I mean? Like, did the Great Replacement happen, but to like the other way around? Like we were the ones wiped out, or like why are we not in the futuristic games or anything like that? And you have to wonder, and then turn around, lo and behold, I can play Civilization, the colonizer version and shit. Like, sometimes you have to just like sit down and think about like what are the implications of the shit we're playing.
You know, I want to give Civilization credit, a little bit of credit. All right, in Civilization 3, when you played as America, the population of your civ would alternate between white and black. They actually had that going. As America, specifically, like the auto-generated populations, without any other attributes, like you don't get to know their backstory, whatever else, their populations they actually cared about that.
Interesting.
And they did a decent job of ethnicities in civs too, where like, you know, you take over a Persian city, and Persians are still going to exist in the city. There's like some eugenics stuff that happened in the game. You can kind of make that happen as well. As a result of this, but like generally speaking, they did a decent job of trying to represent like different populations, etc., etc. So there's like some points there. I wanted to go back to this whole thing. You know, it reminds me of actually, and I think Endless, you're gonna get this because you're into metal. Like, did you ever see the Rammstein music video? What was it like? Auslander?
Yeah, and with the black woman.
Yeah. Where like, you know, they're coming to colonize, and then like. Yeah. And I think they meant it as I'm going to be as charitable as possible because I feel like Rammstein's more woke than you would expect. I think.
Yeah.
I think they made it as like a kind of like a sort of making fun of this concept that the Great Replacement can happen by having white people colonize and then show up and then have their features on all the children that like, you know, emerge, that sort of thing.
Right.
But like that image, the end of that Auslander music video is like kind of what happens in all these like spacefaring like futuristic video games. I feel like where like, you know, it's just like where is the minority populations and like what is going on, you know?
I mean, just in Mortal Kombat, it was a thing like between MKX and MK11, what characters like Jackie and Jax were like before it was only like implied like, okay, I guess from the art and stuff you can infer that these characters are black to actually making them actual black people in the new game, like in MK11.
Do you guys feel like the FGC, the fighting game community, does a bit better of a job when it comes to having a more diverse character pool?
I think so, just because fighting games are a little bit more accessible than other games.
Yeah, I feel like
When he says accessible, he means we play fighting games.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the
Homies
first.
play fighting games. Latin Americans play the fuck out of fighting games.
Because you know why I think that is though, is because you necessarily have to you have to do that with more than one kid at a time, or the best way to do it is with more than one kid at a time. So you can occupy multiple kids with that kind of shit.
It's really funny
just
because
That's why LA is lit, because we have all the three communities coming together to fight, like the Asian community with the Latin American. Like that's the FGC center right there, competitively.
So I have two sets of cousins, right? So I got like my black cousins, I got my Persian cousins, and everybody had video game systems. And what's funny is that like my black cousins, like we all played fighting games like exclusively. So we were playing like that's where like how I got into Soul Calibur. We just like some Mortal Kombat a little bit. And I forgot what else, but like that was like our vibe.
That's what
right?
I played with all my cousins. We played Soul Calibur, we played Mortal Kombat, we played Halo, we played.
Yeah. And then with my Persian cousins, it was all like single player stuff, and we would take turns, and there's like a rotation and stuff. So like, I wonder if there's like some sort of like cultural facet that comes with this whole. Not that like Persians are like like there's like I don't know, like it's not like the prim or proper or whatever. Like it was just like it was just like the way things happened. We were instructed to take turns, and then that was that. And like the fighting game thing, or maybe like fighting games weren't like allowed in the cult. I have to ask my aunts about this now because like I'm really curious why it turned out the way it was. Because like we could play Mario, we even played Contra, but we didn't play fighting games at all. Like there's no Mortal Kombat, there's no Street Fighters, none of that stuff.
We would take turns. So we would play like Donkey Kong Country, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like those types of like side-scrolling games.
Yeah.
Like all those games, we would play. We would take turns and play, but we would always end up before long. Especially if there was a bunch of kids, like if it was a family gathering, like cookout or something like that. We would end up booting up MK3, MK2, Street Fighter 2, or one of those games, and just Tekken 2, just like passing it around.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Though I worked on this documentary that covered the FGC community. That's redundant, isn't the FGC community? That's fighting game community. But
ATM
that was
machine.
yeah, exactly. But that was one of the things that I noticed when working on the documentary. It was like, oh wow, this demographic is so different from any other demographic in the games industry. There's just just not nearly as many white people. I don't know the like how to say
it's like it's
way more
authentic diversity. It's authentic diversity. I want to get to
is it do you think it's like, is it the games, is it just the community that is built up around those games that's a little more welcoming?
I don't know. I guess I couldn't tell you. Because I took for granted, like I hadn't realized that about the FGC until fairly recently. Because I'm from Baltimore. Baltimore is a really diverse city, and I just chalked it up to it being Baltimore. But like, I think maybe there was an era, because it was like we're all 09ers. I think that's the term, where there was that brief period of time where like not everybody had internet and stuff. And maybe because fighting games were part of those multiplayer games that you could play with other people and not have to be online the way that you would with like a Call of Duty or something like that. That's maybe my only guess, is that because there was that barrier to entry there in terms of like socioeconomic class of people who had dodgy internet, or people who didn't have internet at all in their house but had like PS2 or whatever in the house.
So it's like it's socioeconomic kind of conditions.
I don't think it's that at all. I actually think that there's a really good reason for it, but I just don't think it's a very nice reason. I'm just going to call it what it is. Do you guys remember the 90s? And do you guys remember that like there was one word that could get you to stop doing anything if you were a boy? Gay.
Yeah.
That's gay. That's gay. and what games we're seeing. And when we're talking about performative toxic masculinity, when you're playing an FGC game, you are being masculine. You are perceived as masculine. You are winning a competition over another person. That is all seen as acceptable masculinity. That's when I was going back and telling you how there wasn't a blurred stereotype yet. It wasn't allowed to exist back then and be seen as just as another masculine.
That is true. There was that aspect of video games where like you were only really allowed to play like Madden or 2K.
Yeah, if you play JRPGs, like they're just like, oh, you play like, and I know tons of dudes, tons of black boys that played those games, but they like would you like Final, and you'd have to find out that you both were okay with Final Fantasy before y'all could talk about it in public, because there was an element of performative masculinity. Now, obviously, this isn't me being in support of it or anything like that. This is me pointing out, like, that's how toxic it was in the culture. And I do think that there was a lot of...
It was beyond the 90s, too, because I knew someone in the 2000s when Diablo 3 dropped, and we all were going to start playing Diablo 3, and this dude only played, like, Madden and Call of Duty with us. And a bunch of us got Diablo 3, and he was like, "Nah, I'm not getting that gay nerd game."
Yeah. No, and there's something to it that actually explains like the cultural diversity between like my sets of cousins, right? Because like toxic masculinity is one of the features of like black culture in this country. Like my dad, I mean, I don't want to call him out and like talk shit. He was born in the 1940s.
It's a feature of culture in this country.
Yeah. Well, yes. I agree, but there's like there's a difference though, like when it is in like the African American community versus like the the majority American community. I think there's a difference in how it's. I mean, I agree with you. It's I'm just throwing.
What you're saying is it's intersectional, and the intersection of masculinity and blackness has a special blend of toxic masculinity. I just wanted to make sure we understand that it is universal, though.
Yes, I agree with you. Thank you. Yeah, I guess I'm like I'm really excited to talk about it, and the gears are kind of whirring, so I'm just like throwing stuff out as we like talk about it, because like this is definitely like a thing, and yeah, there is like something about like asserting dominance over your friends over a council, and I think like. I guess there's a socioeconomic limiter too, like a little bit of that. Like I don't want to like just ignore it completely, because there was this thing where, even before the internet, you'd get together with your friends. Not to like give my age away or date myself here, but like we'd bring our computers over to each other's houses and we would play things like the LAN party. We'd play Call of Duty, or we would play Jedi Knight. Descent.
Oh, yes, right, like, Jedi Knight.
Like cool games like that or whatever.
Yep.
But like I guess there's that socioeconomic barrier to entry because you have to have a game computer. Unreal Tournament, holy shit! Unreal Tournament at a LAN party was the best fucking thing.
Yes.
Like rapid fire, like so there's shooters where you're like you're crouching Quake. And trying to get your like aims. Yeah, Quake. In Unreal Tournament though. It was rapid fire. You are charging, you're taking shots, you're getting blown away like mid-air, and then you're respawning immediately and going at it again. Holy fuck, I forgot. Unreal Tournament, those were the best LAN parties. Like Unreal Tournament and Unreal Tournament 2K4, I think it was.
Oh yeah! Oh my god!
Like those are the games.
I wish they would have they stopped making those games to work on Fortnite, because there was a Unreal Tournament that was like going to be the new one that they had in alpha, that they were like putting textures on the maps and stuff. But then Fortnite became Fortnite.
I mean, fine, but I want to play Unreal Tournament.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yo, Unreal Tournament's what's up, but remember Halo? Like, that was, like, the first one that you could, like... That was the first game that really blew up on you could LAN your consoles together. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you'd have, like, fucking 16 people playing. And, bruh, I went hard in Halo.
Halo 2 LAN parties were fire.
But it's funny because when we're talking about the performative masculinity thing, my friend and I used to not play Halo at all. Like, we didn't like first-person shooters because we liked, our JRPGs, our stuff. What happened was we went to our local LAN center, right? You couldn't play JRPGs up in there. Those boys were playing Halo. And if you weren't playing Halo, and if you're getting whooped in Halo, you weren't like a boy. So we went home and we actually we practiced Halo, and like ever from that moment, like I mean, we literally used to play professionally and stuff after that. And it's so crazy to me that it all started from the fact that playing our games was gay.
Right. That Counter-Strike. I had to train in Counter-Strike because like everyone else
love
was playing it,
Counter-Strike.
and like the thing is, like Counter-Strike wasn't my immediate game, but like all my friends were playing it. They were all good at it. I played once. They wrecked my face. I got destroyed. Like I wasn't getting any kills at all, and I'm like, all right. So I'm gonna spend the rest of my life training in shooters so that if I'm ever in
Hit
this
the aim
situation
trainer.
again, yeah, like just like every day I'm gonna play one Counter Strike and one Call of Duty, and like I was treating it like a fucking like a training, like I was preparing for like the Counter Strike Olympics or some shit.
That's how. Shout out to Fade Runner, my boy Fade. He's learning how to play with the mouse and keys right now. We've been playing Hunt Showdown,
Yeah,
and that's like the worst game to
your
learn to do
Hunt
that
Showdown tweet, by the way.
I gotta check this out. What was the tweet?
No, I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. You know what? You know what? You don't want me to say it, Josh. You don't want me to say it.
all right.
But that tweet, having in stitches.
Check
when
this out.
when I had the pistol and I opened up the door with the uppercut. Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
you're right. That is not an easy
Nope.
fucking game to learn mouse and keyboard on because the control scheme in that game is like that does not translate to any other game.
nah, no, it does not.
But
I
I
was
will.
playing with the controller, and I was like, because he was like, I wish this game had aim assist, and I was like, that's crazy. You've been playing this on the controller this whole time, and he just saw me. It was one round that we were in where I just like, bong, bong. I just like got like 3 headshots in a row, and he was like, all right, let me go back to the mouse and keys. And it's
Yep.
like,
I mean, it requires more skill. No offense to console users or whatever else, but like the aim assist.
Oh,
thing is
yeah.
kinda, I mean, just
it's two different. It's two different wants. Like as far as movement goes, I would much rather have a controller, but for the aiming, I would much rather have the mouse.
yeah. And then if
Agreed.
you're like really into the mouse and keyboard, you can actually. There's some people who have like 2 different mouse settings, right? Like there's like
Yeah.
the regular shooter setting, and then there's like, oh, I've got a sniper rifle. I got to get that fine-tuned, real slow
The little
DPI.
button.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you can just like finesse that headshot.
Also, the
Um,
characters in Hunt Showdown look sick.
They
They
do.
all look fucking awesome.
All of the perks, like the trait like artwork looks like death metal EP artwork too.
Yeah, just the whole aesthetic of that game, from the theme song when you open up that main
Yeah,
menu.
the Kid
it,
Cudi hums, yeah.
Yeah, it just hits. There's something about the aesthetic of that game and the gunplay and everything. Everything just it's a phenomenal underrated game.
oh, go ahead, Aston. Go ahead.
Or Aston, it sounds like you got a question.
No, I was going to say, so I'm going to throw one last thing because we've talked about character development. We've talked about the characters and leading and roles. I think another thing that, like, and this is going to something that we all roll our eyes about, but can we talk about how they steal black stories? Like, literally, characters will be slaves and like like I think in Dragon Quest they were like slaves and like they had to like beat their masters and stuff. Like they'll do whole storylines about revolution and liberation and not have a single black face in it, and never. And it's not that every story needs a black face, but it's like, isn't it weird that you're kind of telling the black stories without us ever?
I feel
It's almost like a taboo in game development where we tread around the topic and use it as inspiration, but it's too taboo. Like no one
I
wants
was
to
gonna
touch
say,
it.
yeah, you have to wonder how much of that producers would even be
Oh,
okay
man.
with like
They'd be
scared
so
shitless.
uncomfortable with it. I just
Yeah.
know. I know that no one wants to talk
Like-
about it. Like and you in games like The Witcher, you have a whole demographic, the elves, the subhuman races that face that same persecution and genocide in the history like of their lore. In games like Dragon Age, also the elves are usually servants. There's persecution. You have all of these like mythical races that face that kind of have the black story without being black characters. It's never.
And you know what I really hate about this, actually? Just thinking about it now, whenever I think about like they treat like it's they always like anatomically speaking, everyone who ends up being like subservient, the subservient group or whatever, are always like built to like make it feel like it should make sense, right? Like I'm thinking like Harry Potter here right now, like off the top of my head, where like the
Smaller,
elves,
weaker,
yeah,
darker.
as if like that's what like it made this happen. When in reality, no, it was just like outright greed. You just like gathered people that you could like take advantage of and make it so. And so like even in these situations, and like the way you even framed it, Josh, right? When you said like these subhuman races, and like that, even that framework itself kind of feeds into like the dialogue where like there's a sort of justification for why the slavery is happening, when in reality it's just whoever you take advantage of is being put in chains. Now
It's like we fetishize it's like slavery to an extent, because it's like we're creating these mythical, wonderful worlds where unicorns and dragons and mythic beasts exists, and we still twist them so that we put the white like colonial spin on all of these worlds. We still twist them in ways where it's like,
Well,
oh, this shit's still
I'm
happening.
gonna say this is gonna be like, probably the most like scuffed idea I've ever had that I'm just gonna like spit out live. But like, what if there was like an antebellum South like RPG where you ended slavery? Like you just gotta play like
Wow.
the role, like you play the role, and you just like the first scene is you do something really like it's like like how like Dave Chappelle had that skit where it was like the skit that he couldn't air on TV, where it was like
The
he
N
just
word family.
he's just
No,
like
no, he's talking about the one where they did the roots, the backs, the deleted
yeah
scene.
yeah like the time they go back in time and he just
Oh
shoots
no, the back in
the
time one, yeah.
yeah he just shoots the slave owners. Like that's like the whole
Oh
premise of the
yeah.
thing is like he shoots the slave owner. Can you have like a video game where this happens and like would like people actually be able to survive the experience of even having this video game exist? You know what I mean?
That's
Like,
what's cool about Hunt Showdown too is the time period it takes place in and the area that it is. So like the different characters that you can play as are like super diverse, and you get to basically make up your own backstory for them because the goal is just kill the boss, kill each other, and extract.
So what's weird about what we're saying? There's like this double-edged sword to these stories thing too. One, you're too scared to have the story of the Black Revolutionary. Let's just be real. You don't want the image of a black slave like breaking out of slavery because like you don't know what that looks like, and that idea scares you. Like because you don't know how to write the end of that story. But you can do it for white people, and the problem that it happens when they do that is they like our story, but they're not really listening to our perspective. So it's a whitewashed version of a slave, which teaches all these kids that, like, oh, well, if black people just wanted enough, they could just, like, go Super Saiyan and break out of slavery. Like, they teach these stories, like, they tell these very whitewashed versions of what liberation, like, what slavery would look like. Like, slavery, they're all slaves, but they live in nice houses and they all, like, get to see each other and their families are kept together. And it's almost sometimes desensitizing, I think, people to the idea of slavery, and I think that's why a lot of the times you get a lot of cultural pushback when you try to like bring up like how bad slavery was. Well, I was just playing as a little white boy that was a slave, and he broke out of his shit. So how can you tell me that like black people need anything for slavery? Like it's a weird thing, right?
well, I mean, the thing is, like, I loved watching some of the scenes from Django Unchained, right? Like that movie, like I know it's like it doesn't make any sense, and like there's a little bit of whitewashing even in that, but like
That's sick though.
just watch him like just fuck everyone up.
Yeah,
Like I could do that all day. Like just I'll
We
play on
all
loop, right?
we all love a power fantasy, but what those power fantasy stories usually don't recognize is that, okay, once you defeat the initial boss or whatever is keeping you oppressed, there's still the system in place.
Fact.
Well, you have to break the system, and that's where things get pretty. And that's, I mean, that would be my plot line.
That's what makes Django a tragic hero, though, because he does all that, but he's just going to get clapped like 30 minutes after.
And that's the thing. Like this did happen in history. Like there was like the Nat Turner 1834, right? Like there was like the
Nat Turner Rebellion.
And then
there's lots of rebellions that were, you know what I mean? And yeah,
they just get shut down.
It was a thing, yeah.
And then even going all the way back to like the initial like onset of like where racism even springs from, the Bacon Rebellion, it was poor whites, indentured servants, and African slaves working together to take down the man. And after that was ended, they decided that this collab can never happen again, and they spent the next 300 to 400 years making sure that poor white folk and anyone who's different really didn't like each other for X, Y, or Z reasons. Like the whole basis of racism like springs from that part. I'm gonna take it back for just a second. I feel like we've gone down a historical path that is gonna be really hard to escape, like pull back from. But I wanted to go back to Unreal Tournament for just a second. Just thinking about that game.
We can definitely do that.
It is really diverse. Like they actually had the diversity thing figured out, didn't they?
Well, Malcolm, yeah,
like
fuck yeah, Malcolm.
Yeah. Like and even in like the future iterations, they gave you like a little bit more customization. I think I don't remember the game. Like all I remember is like blowing people apart, obviously. But like that's the hallmark of the game.
There was a bunch of different like models and stuff in the game that you could play as for sure.
And mods, you can install mods. You could customize it any which way you want.
Skins, all that. Yeah.
So it was like there's just an all around good game. And then Frackle had said something that I definitely wanted to get engaged in because I've never played EVE Online. I never played
EVE
it.
Online sounds cool. I had a friend that played it religiously.
It's a cult. I would define the people who play that game as a cult.
Yeah.
You gotta put energy into that game to get anywhere. Like real boy hours. You know what I mean?
The idea that a space battle can cost $200,000 is ridiculous.
In real money.
That's wild.
Like what? This is where NFTs, like the spawn of NFTs, was probably like that came from that, right? Like holy shit.
They do it in a fun way though. Like all of the systems. It's not a game built around NFTs. It's a game where it has a real in-game economy and everything is a feature, and it was built around it from the ground up.
Sorry, I didn't mean to trigger you. I didn't mean to trigger you about NFTs. I'm just saying.
Oh no! I'm not defending NFTs. I'm defending like the
EVE Online is sick. Yeah.
Truly, like. They hired an economist, an actual economist, to build their economy, and it's why I have nothing but respect for that community. I really do.
Actually, fun fact, that's actually where we get so when video games came around and big data came around, it became the first time economists had access to be able to study like real life economies, like with perfect amounts of data. And there's actually been so much good like work done on like EVE, and like I think the first one was EverQuest, the first like study that they ever did, and those things are really, really interesting to watch and incredibly valuable in like discerning like how these things work.
I could have a whole episode dedicated to talking about in-game economies and how that ties to like how much control should the government or developers have over the economies. That's actually, you know what, mark that down, Matt Lab. That's a great fucking episode.
We should absolutely do that.
I was gonna say I have a homie. It's actually Fade Runner's really good homie too. Our friend Doug, I think, works with like ZeniMax and stuff on like game economies.
That'd be a great person to talk to.
We should do this. We definitely.
But to bring it back to Frackle's take, Allie, I think I cut you off. You were trying to make a point.
Yeah, I was gonna go. Hold on, I have a pen. Oh wait, almost. All right, cool. Yeah. And then Frackle actually had an interesting thought regarding after that EVE Online thing. He was talking about the imperialist lens that video games take. And like, how do you design a story around decolonization? And I can't actually imagine what that is. Like, I actually like thought about it. I was like, okay, this is a prompt. How would I respond to the prompt? And I'm drawing a blank. Like, what's the premise of a game where you are trying to create? Was it creating equity? Is it like removing like what's the framework for shit? Yeah.
I was gonna say, in terms of just like game loop, Dying Light 2 sprang to mind immediately in terms of like gamification of something like that, of just like, okay, you're destroying outposts, or you're like assassinating high value targets, or whatever that might look like in terms of like controlling territory on a map or something like that.
So that's revolutionary, and I can see that being, but like, on some level, is that conflict not imperialist in its own like way?
I think we've seen in recent years more games have you side on the side of like the rebellion, right? Like in Far Cry 6, however well it was executed, you are the revolutionists, rising up against the government, the oppressor. But a lot of older games, and you see this really in RTS games, especially, is you are a conquering force, right? Like the whole
Yep.
point of most RTSs, with the exception of Civilization, where you can have diplomatic victory. Most games, Warcraft or Starcraft is an example. Whether you're the humans in Warcraft 2 and 3 or
Warhammer Dawn of War.
Warhammer Dawn of, I mean, Warhammer is a great fucking example because they are
Yeah.
literally space Nazis,
Yeah.
super xenophobic, and the whole point is conquest, space conquest, and to wipe out every other race. And StarCraft as well. StarCraft 1 less so too, but
I was
again,
gonna say Solaris. The best way to play Solaris, I found, is to just act like an imperialist state. You just go around, you conquer your alien civs or whatever,
Yeah.
and then you create little puppet alien states and just like populate the galaxy with like little states that aren't going to harm you ever again, and then you just like easy win. Like even the game model, like the way to win the games, like put you in this imperialist lens, which is interesting. But I was going to actually add to this. I was watching Riverboat Jack play a game the other day. We've rated her a few times. She's awesome. She does like video game journalism and other things. But she's playing a deconstruction game where you decommission space stations and ships and stuff. And I wonder if you can't take that framework where you're deconstructing something and apply it to like an imperialist state. Like let's say you have control over an imperialist state and your job is to make it a utopia, a paradise. And the framework of the game would be trying to figure out like how to like fight systemic racism or fight like different aspects of the society that causes problems. Maybe.
Well, I was gonna say like you could do the like I don't know why you couldn't do a Civilization, for example, where it's like, why don't you start off in the position of building a revolution. Like that's the game. You're creating the conditions necessary, maybe in a society, to create the revolution, and then have just a post-revolution part of the game where it's all just building, and then you can have like differing factions. Maybe this faction wants to do the revolution this way, that faction wants to do the revolution that way. You guys split off and become two different. You can do all sorts of things, but the point is you have to want to design a game from that perspective. You have to find that perspective interesting in the first place, because I think that there's a ton of material you could do, even if you just switched it to like a first-person shooter, right? Like your first-person shooter is like, all right, we just had the revolution. Now we have to deal with the fragments, the fascists, the leftover fascists. We have to find all the fascist cells and take them out and stuff. You just have to you have to want to see the game through that lens, and I think that everything else would follow.
I think Dying Light 2 is a good example just because of how much it reiterated that if you're on the side of like the I guess you could say that like anarchists, like the rebellion or whatever, on the opposite side of the PKs or whatever, how much the territory doesn't actually belong to you. It just doesn't belong to them anymore. Because like the zombies and stuff are still there. Because like if you side with the PKs and you do all their stuff, then they're like clearing the zombies out. And there's all the traps and everything, all of that. But like if you essentially give the water and the power to the anarchists, to the people or whatever, you just have like trampolines and extra swings and different ways to traverse the terrain, as opposed to just like dominating it and clearing it out and all that stuff.
That's
yo, stay with me here. XCOM. Do XCOM. Like you could turn XCOM into a revolutionary game like that.
True.
Like it has all the elements in it. You have the RTS part where you're actually doing the infiltrating and the killing. You have the base building. You actually have the globalization. Like I think XCOM would actually fit that perfectly. You just have to just write it in that lens.
Yeah, absolutely. Bring it back to Dying Light 2 for a second. And this is just something. This is a realization that I've been grappling with recently. It's just something that I just noticed about the factions that I choose and the characters that I choose. In Dying Light 2, I saw the trailer and I saw the, the heavily armored, I think it's the PK faction.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, those dudes look sick. Like they've got dope, like police looking armor, and they're all about like order and clearing out these zones. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm siding with the cops. And then I thought about every faction, I've ever like chosen in video games. It's always been like, oh, Star Wars, the Empire, like their armor looks dope. Or like in RTS factions, like it's always like, oh, these guys have like sick looking armor. They're like usually imperialist kind of dudes. I think growing up with the perspective of being taught that like,
oh yeah,
cops are good, army good, America good. It's
like,
really impacted.
Judge Dredd's one of my favorite characters. Yeah,
100%,
sure.
because they always look sick. Like
yeah,
paramilitary gear looks fucking sick. But it's actually not sick. Like growing up, like now that I kind of see the world around me for what it is, it's like, oh, there's a lot of problems with the factions I'm choosing in video games.
For sure.
Well, that's the weird thing. Like, we all kind of go through that phase when we're like teenage boys where we all go through our little fascist phase where we love Axis and allies and shit. And you have to think to yourself, like, it really took me a second to go, like, wow, we have games from the perspective of Nazis before we have it from the perspective of black people, because we do this weird glorification. I mean, how many times is it like, how many times are you thinking, oh, I want to pick Germany because I already know they're going to have this, and this buff. Like, their tanks are going to be great. And it's weird, right? Because in those stories that we tell of the enemies, our enemies, we kind of glam them up. We kind of make them sound like that's where we get like the evil, like all the intelligent evil villains having the German accents, and like Nazis were stupid, bro, but we have an idea that they were brilliant because of almost like this weird like attraction we have to like fascism inside of video games of being on the imperial side. Because I agree with you, man. I too, even as a black man, picked the side of order quite a few times before I realized how fucked that was.
The drip is always better. It's always better. It's always good.
The drip is insane.
Nazis suck, but space Nazis like Warhammer,
like bro.
How many times did I play as the Empire? I always play as the Empire.
Why did we let Nazis get helmets? Why did we let them appropriate helmets? Because helmets are dope as shit, okay?
Stormtrooper helmets.
Yeah, we all need to get back together. We need to come up with some fucking liberation characters that wear helmets, okay? We're taking that shit back.
Thank you. Like in Ghost Recon, I think Wildlands or whatever the newest one was, Breakpoint, there's these rebels that can like align with you and fight against the paramilitary force or whatever, but they all look fucking stupid. They all like, none of them have like camouflage gear. They're all wearing like bright like blue, pink, and like green, like all of these colors that are like, how does this make any sense?
I will tell you what it is. I know exactly what it is.
And they don't wear helmets. None of them wear helmets.
I will tell you exactly what it is. You want to give each individual that you're supposed to care about character. So they can't wear helmets, because if they wear a helmet, you can't see their face. You can't.
But I don't relate to that because they don't look cool. I don't want to help them.
All I'm saying, I got the compromise.
Yeah,
I've got the compromise.
Take the mask off and they're white, and I don't relate to it anyway. So
fair. No, I was gonna say though is if you like have the helmets and have the helmets have flair, right? Like, you know, a crack in the helmet or like a different color, shade, whatever else.
Or it's worn. It's more worn.
Yeah.
The Halo Reach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, fucking love that game.
Then you can bond with the character and have the cool fucking helmet too. That's it.
The one black dude never took his helmet off. Seems racially motivated. It's like, nah.
Like, seriously.
His helmet was sick though, with a little skull etched into it or whatever.
Yeah, that was my favorite. Emilio or something like that.
Spartan Emil.
Yeah,
he had the kukri.
So I say this because I enjoy this when we have like nice panels like this. This reminds me of the black panel when we get to just say things and be cathartic. So I'm just going to say it. Isn't this shit weird? Isn't like all this stuff we're talking about, like when you just sit down and think about it, isn't it weird? Yeah. Like why the fuck is this shit happening?
Yeah.
It's like an unconscious reflection. Like,
yeah,
it's when you understand history of the United States and the society that the United States was moving towards throughout like the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and how like capitalism stuff has kind of been structured, and us being an entire generation, as in like elder millennials and to a certain extent like Gen Xers and stuff, an entire generation of people who are now like in control or starting to move into positions of power, where we have these creative liberties and stuff, but we've grown up in that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's just like kids on Twitch, like in our circle, like we've talked about the tourists, and then there's the people with the actual good natured, like their hearts in the right place, like white kids from like Montana and shit that have never met black people before. You know what I mean? Like, and that's going to be the same for everyone else, but those people are instead a bit more influenced by like the propaganda that we all have. Was like, for example, what we were saying earlier, you were saying something earlier, like, oh, when you're talking about how there's the push to make the slavery not seem as bad as it really actually was. You know what I mean? Just like certain kind of things like that you don't
Or
really think about consciously, but it's just you take them for granted as what the culture dictates or what history actually is, or how certain
or
system, social or professional things function.
I want to add to that, like just like the history of like what made a country the country, right? Like there's this
Yeah.
idea that like there's like this work ethic that America had at the very beginning that allowed us to thrive and accomplish all these things, but it was literally like looting and pillaging like the folks who already lived here, plus bringing over like free labor to do all the things that were required to make the country like exist in the first place, and we just ignore that, and we only talk about the folks who are able to pull themselves up by the bootstraps and accomplish all these great things, etc., etc. And it's not to say that there weren't rugged individualists that exist who are able to do fantastic things within the society that they lived in, but that society they lived in was a privilege. They did these fantastic things. They pulled themselves up by the bootstraps on the shoulders of folks who were being used as objects and not people. And like I feel like that is like oftentimes missed by folks who celebrate the work ethic. And so I feel yeah, go ahead.
No. Sorry, continue. I thought.
No,
Uh,
I was just gonna, and so like I guess like the point is that we need to like have like a more holistic view where we are willing to accept like there are good people even within the oppressor community, fine, etc. But like we need to acknowledge the fact that these folks who existed as oppressors were oppressors, and that we can how do I put it? I'm losing the thread. I don't want to do the Barack Obama, you didn't build that, because it pisses people off. But like that's kind of what it is. That's really literally what it is. Like you can be someone who's has like all the good intent in the world and still be a part of the oppressor class and have done the things that contribute to the things that actually hurt humanity as a whole. Is I guess what I'm gonna aim for here.
I just wish people saw that nuance, because most people don't have it.
Well, and here's the thing, and what I think is so weird about it is, like, yes, yeah, we all have these things. Yeah, America racist. Yes, everybody grows up with bias. Blah blah blah. The thing that's weird is how much money you would be making if you actually did the diversity thing. How much money you would be making off of like our culture involving us. Like I was saying this on one of our panels about like why isn't there black people in anime? Like Black anime would rock. Like could you imagine like if you know what a tsundere is, could you imagine like a black African American woman being a tsundere, just being like, yo, niggas ain't shit, but like I fuck with you, senpai. Like come on. You would eat that shit up. Like you're leaving money on the table by not involving us and our culture, and like there's so many more, because let's fucking face it, dude. I'm so sick and tired of seeing AAA trailers, because they're all the same fucking trailer, because they're all the same fucking game, and none of them are fucking interesting anymore. I've seen you do this stupid ass like whatchamacallit, like a resource, like gather your resource, craft materials. Ooh, I've never seen that before. It's a post-apocalyptic world where you're out in forest and civilization. Like, come on, bro. I've seen it. I've seen it. Give me something fucking new. And you've got like literally a group of people that you have just not put in video games before. Tell a new fucking story. It'll sell like fucking hotcakes. Because I don't know. I don't know.
other side of
I'm
it,
the one that like sees that. Like it just seems obvious.
that's from the consumer end, but I was thinking also just from the worker end. We also see with like indie studios and stuff, and we've been talking about how like workers co-ops and stuff are actually more beneficial than the normal like capitalistic mode for a minute. But here in Baltimore, we have Taharka Brothers Ice Cream, which is a black-owned workers co-op. They make some of the dankest ice cream ever. They've been a co-op for like 2 years now. They became a co-op at the top of the pandemic. And a lot of the best games are indie games, like Dead Cells, amazing game. Fucking Axiom Verge, amazing games. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the wave, like I feel like gaming as a specific industry that's like really ripe for the whole unionization and like just like restructuring of the. I feel like that's the easiest, going to be the easiest industry for people to seize the means of production, because it's like the means of production is like this right here. Like you just like your computer, and you know what I mean? You guys can just like get together and be like, yo, let's make a game. And that's it.
Yeah,
sure.
and indie games are also that's the side of the industry where you're probably going to see a little more risk taking, like stories that wouldn't be told in mainstream media, because I like throwing it back to a story about slavery. You would just never see that in a AAA game, because the marketing department and the executive producers would be like, "Fuck no, we're not telling that story. We're not touching that with a 2-inch stick."
Could you imagine EA's Harriet Tubman 2024?
I certainly cannot.
I was waiting. I remember in 2020 when everybody was doing the Black Lives Matter JPEGs, I was like, watch, they're going to come out with the Black Panther skins for Warzone.
Right.
Huey Newton skin.
I would fucking cringe if they did do it.
I would rock it,
I
though.
wouldn't trust them. I wouldn't trust them to do it right, I guess, is the issue. Because
okay, so Juneteenth's next week, yeah. How many fucking corporate shills have put out Juneteenth fucking merchandise? Juneteenth ice cream, Juneteenth napkins, Juneteenth paper plates. There was a Juneteenth. The Juneteenth ice cream really fucking killed me.
We've actually, so I'm part of a bunch of different coalitions, and we do stuff all over the country. Check us out, by the way.
Absolutely.
We actually we called up and we made a huge fuss because there's this, I think it was in Iowa. I have to pull up the flyer. Pretty sure it was Iowa, because it was Betty that was out. Anyways, it doesn't matter. The point is, on this flyer, it was "Come celebrate Juneteenth with our amazing soul food selection," and it had 3 fucking white people on it, and it was like, oh, and you're just sitting there, just like, well, how can you just not get? How can you like write? Like it's like that time. Remember when they did that ad, and it was like that black kid with the monkey on him, and it's like How does this get past so many people before you like recognize, like, how can you not see what's wrong with this?
There was here in Baltimore, there was Giant got sued. It was like a grocery store chain, and they got sued because during Black History Month they had a fried chicken and watermelon sale.
Jesus.
Yeah, I remember that story. Yep.
What?
Yep.
The fuck?
Yep.
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
This is like a fucking. These are Boondocks episodes, right?
Yeah.
Like straight up, like
or
fucking. What's his name? Wentzler. Wentzler. Yeah. Like, I got this great idea. Yeah, Friedman. Let me tell you about this great idea I have. We're gonna have a fried chicken watermelon. I'm like, grocery store.
You know, this is my favorite type of white person, by the way. This is the liberal white ally, by the way. So when we call a lot of you guys libs, this is the type of person we mean. It's the type of person that gets Juneteenth done for us, and then they'll be like, "Yo, we got Juneteenth. Now we can have our chicken and watermelon sales, right, guys?" And you're just looking at it, and you're like, "Wow, like that is a lib. That is a lib for sure." All right.
There was an IKEA store, I think it was here in California, that for Juneteenth did exactly that, where they served their employees. You guessed it.
Oh,
Watermelon and fried chicken. Yeah, yeah. And employees were like, what the actual fuck? Yeah.
If you knew anything
That's so
about
rough.
black culture, you know we don't eat white people's chicken. Y'all don't clean it. Goddamn.
Oh, that's wild.
It's pretty bad. And
that's so
it was
wild.
like a white woman, a manager who just didn't fucking like
Just
it
didn't
was
even
it
think.
wasn't malicious. You just was a
Right,
fucking
yeah.
idiot, you know?
Just call a friend.
And
Like,
that
phone a
happens.
friend. Like, just lifeline. Like, call a friend. Hey, I got this idea, you see. I was thinking about serving up this food. What do you think?
Well, that's the thing. They don't have any black friends. That's why this happens.
It's true.
They had black employees. They could have reached out to any one of them and been like, "Hey, I don't know what to do for this.
True.
Help me out," you know?
No, promote the employee first, because they're now being like used as like promo sales, right? Like they're like in charge of marketing all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like you gotta give them a promotion. You gotta say, all right, look, these people with big brains making 100K a year can't figure this shit out, but you can. We're gonna give you a raise. Tell me, what can we advertise for Juneteenth?
I am ready. You know what, the video game industry is ready for it though. I really do feel like we need like a Jordan Peele to just come through and just like do some art.
That's
You know
gotta
what
be me.
Yep.
That's gotta be me. I'll come through and write all the stories, do all the music. It'll be perfect.
Oh, that sounds great. That actually sounds good.
Oh,
I would love to see like a black owned, like primarily like black operated game studio, you know?
That would be sweet.
That would be sick. I would love to see what games come out of that because it would be fire.
I wonder, like, I mean, maybe we should like just Google this shit and see like what has been tried. Like, there's got to be something.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, like we haven't talked about it. Maybe we just don't know. Maybe this is one of those
true.
things that's like like just like there's like some hidden.
Because I know Carr told us that Black May actually exists.
well, one show, Cannon Busters.
Cannon Busters, yeah.
Wait, Cannon
Busters and Boondocks. That's like it.
Okay, Boondocks. Okay, Boondocks is a special thing. Like, okay, if Aaron
Boondocks
Magruder,
doesn't really count.
if Aaron Magruder came back to design like story arcs for video games, I would be pretty fucking happy. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
But come on, no, wait, whoa! I'm not going to let that one slide, my brother in Christ.
am I missing something?
Did you
Do I
say
not know
Boondocks?
something? Yeah.
How does Boondocks not count?
Oh, that. Okay, yeah. You guys didn't have.
That's exactly what Black May would look like.
It's true. Although
Sorta.
okay, hold on. Okay. So what was the team of geriatric ninjas that like came out to like take out the Freeman family? It was the fucking okay. So there was Stinkmeaner's posse. What was Stinkmeaner's posse called? They had a name.
The hateful one.
Yeah. That fight is what black anime would be, right?
In your chest, yuck.
That shit was perfect.
That was so good.
This is an interesting topic to talk about because it's like anime is like Japanese produced like animation, and that's why American animation is not anime. But is it this weird gatekeeping thing where like I mean there are no black people in Japan, so can there ever be black anime? Like it's
Japanese culture has some serious problems with the like black
representation.
Yes.
There's this movie I saw. It was a B-list movie, to be fair, but still, it was like Frankenstein girl versus vampire woman or some shit, right? And like there's a group of there's in Japanese culture there's Gungoros, who are folks who want to have tan skin instead of pale skin. That's the aesthetic. And normally, like, the overwhelming majority is all about the paler your skin, the better off you are, whatever. Gungoros are the opposite. And in this movie, they took the Gungoros and they went further because we're not just talking about like folks who want tan skin. They started getting the Pacific Islanders, right? And they had like these racist, like extremely racist stereotypes, like combining all the different facets together and basically trying to make it seem that the Gungoro culture is all about like that. And like for a movie like that to exist, be produced, etc., like there's like some serious fucking problems within the whole society.
Wait, are you telling me the country that only has 1% foreign born is like a weird ethno state with like a lot of racism? I would have never guessed.
I was just talking to someone. She's African and Japanese, and you
Oh
know
wow.
what? I should have. I gotta, I'm gonna talk to her about that because we were just talking about it, and she's talking about she has a hard time hanging out with her cousins and stuff. I want to
By the way,
She'd be
I'm
great to
allowed
hang
to
out.
say Afronese. None of you guys are. My uncle's married to an Asian lady, and I have Blasian cousins, so it's okay.
There you
It's
go.
okay. We're saying
Yeah,
Totally
and,
okay.
and
It's
she goes by
allowed.
Blasian. She goes by Blasian. That's who she is. She's Blasian, and we've been playing a lot of League together. It's been fun.
One of I mean, like you want to talk about racism and how pervasive it is in Asian culture. It's one of the most awkward experiences of my life was in China. I'm working at a educational company with one of my black colleagues, and we're talking about anime. We both love anime, and our Chinese supervisor comes over, and she's like, "Oh, you guys love anime? Like, I love anime." And we're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, these are some of the ones we love." And she was like, "Oh, you like anime too? Like, I didn't. Do they have basketball anime?" And she did not say it. She did not say it like
It sounds
sarcastically
sick though.
or malicious. It does sound sick, but like just
They
like that
exist.
perception,
You.
like to make a
The Gary
statement
Payton
like that.
anime, that would be sick.
I mean,
Like
so
Prince of Tennis, but like
so
yeah,
there's a soccer
like something like
anime
that.
that was huge in
There's a
Iran.
basketball anime and a soccer anime and a
Yeah,
baseball anime.
the baseball anime, the one that I've seen like clips from, is weird. Not gonna lie, the baseball one is pretty. I mean, for an anime, like there's weird animes out there. The baseball one's got some interesting things going on.
But like
Like just the memes I've seen. But
China and Japan, like
oof.
mostly Japan is obviously has control and a foothold in like anime and animation. How do you expect to see like true diversity in the content that they produce when you're right, when
You just
there's
make it.
1% foreign population there,
You build it. You build it, and then see how popular it gets, and then everyone's like, "Oh wow, this is really popular." And then all the
Oh, it would
corporate
be so
shills will,
popular.
all the corporate shills are like, "Oh, well, this makes money. We've got to participate too," and they're gonna put on the mask and start doing it.
But that they would need to attract black creators to Japan, and it's
Yeah,
Japan is very xenophobic. They just are.
but go
No, no,
ahead.
no, no. This is where anime doesn't need to come from fucking Japan. The largest consumer of anime are Americans, so like it doesn't need to come from Japan. I understand, like I guess what you would call it, weeaboos and all the like might be a little miffed that there wasn't a Japanese name on the director right there, but I don't really think that it really matters at that point. I think that there's been enough cultural transmission that I guarantee you in about like 10 years, most anime directors are probably going to be white people. Real talk.
I think people will be surprised at how much anime is actually from America.
Yeah.
Especially like the stuff on Netflix. I'm like looking at that, and I'm like, all right, it looks like anime, but I got a feeling. What was I can't remember the
Like
name of
what,
it, but there's,
Castlevania or
maybe I'm thinking about there was one that was I think it was
Castlevania
like
rules though.
fucking
completely
sick.
Russian.
It's so
Like,
fucking good.
there was
But
an
I
anime
do
that was
want
made.
to
Yeah,
I do want to bring it back because I do. Any chance I get to say this, I am going to say this. Let's just bring it back to the fact that Japan, you're really racist and really misogynist. Like take a good look in the mirror, bruh. Take a good look in the mirror. Talk about the country that denies the atrocities that they did during World War II to China, the rape of Nanping. Yeah, you're going to get a lot of fascism. That's why there's so much fascism in anime often. So
Oh
just
yeah.
get that out there. Just got to say it while I got the platform.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like the thing is, like for a while, like a lot of my favorite animes had that like element to it until I realized, wait a second, it's the same exact thing. What
That
was the
being
one?
said, I do love me some anime waifus though.
I'm not.
We do love our big anime titties on this
I'm-
on the weekly stand up.
Anime thitties.
I'm gonna have to.
Oh, look at that beauty.
God.
You know what the worst part is I didn't buy this. My partner did, and she loves Tiggle anime biddies.
Oh yeah, dude, my little sister has that same, I mean not that like she has that mouse pad, different character, but she fucking loves anime.
I mean,
I think
Yeah.
that's probably
I-
half the reason she's like
look,
bi is that she
I'm gonna
just
let you
loves
guys-
like anime chicks.
I'm gonna let you guys enjoy your mouse pad. Like I got some line. I like my anime. That's fine, but like I think my wrist can nest on all sorts of things. It doesn't have to be a big old set.
Yeah, I got a regular.
I mean, sorry, I'm a little bit.
boring.
Yeah,
If
I'm maybe a
my
little
wrist
more
could
vanilla.
rest on anything, why would they not be titties?
I mean, I'm gonna let other people.
Jess was here because she'd agree with you. Like she'd be like,
I mean,
absolutely, 100%.
I'm sure. I'm just gonna.
You would absolutely. Jess would be so on board with that statement.
Understand what the problem here is like you're giving me the option of picking anything in the world. I pick tits.
All right, I'm here for you. And I'm not gonna. Everyone's got their preferences. Whatever.
Penguin would be pretty cool.
Oh my god, just what the fuck indeed, Grace.
Well, Graves was talking about not this. This was like a while back.
Was it from something else?
We were talking about something really fucked up before.
The story in China. Yeah, that was pretty fucked up.
Probably.
Yes, that's what it was. That's what it was.
I do. Before we just go like totally open world and talk about what games and anime we like. I want to bring it back for just a second to wrap up. The diversity in games and character creation, all that stuff. So I've got some questions. What companies and games do you think like just nail it, like knock it out of the park that we can use as sort of a model?
None. Like, am I supposed to be like, if I'm going to be real, I've had this question before where they'll be like, all right, who's like the best black character? I'm like, none of them, because they don't exist. Like, so yeah, none.
I think in terms of design for like singular characters, that one's hard to answer too. I think the only thing that's like good is just that more people try and that more of it is out there. So I feel like it's as much criticism as people will get for like doing it in the way of like trying to tick the box. At least that exists and is out there to be criticized, as opposed to there always going to be the want for those types of characters to exist, I guess.
That's a good point. They're trying, and that's a pretty eye-opening answer that there's just no studio doing it right now. Yeah.
I mean, I just think. I mean, if they made a Boondocks video game that was a hit, like Huey Freeman would be the ideal like black protagonist, and like just like he's got the black power fist. Like I don't know if you saw him fighting. I'm gonna go back to Boondocks. It's like that show was so fucking good.
I liked Mortal Kombat 11's like their character models and their voice acting and backstories and stuff is really cool. But
yeah.
Oh, one of my buddies worked on that game. I'll pass that along.
Nice.
So cool. That's good to know. We clearly need to do better as an industry, and I'm sure there are some indie studios that do it right. That we're just not like familiar with.
Yeah, I was gonna say
primarily in the AAA space. There's just no one's.
Or I mean, like, think about this. Like, how much time did we spend naming black characters? Oh wait, we didn't. How many times did we name black directors? Oh wait, we didn't. How many like you could just do this over and over again, and like as much as like I'm sorry, I am putting my foot down. I am making the complete claim. It does not exist. This is not a culture that we are allowed into with any real sort of agency. So I'm not going to pretend like that I said, there are plenty of black characters that I've liked over the years. There are plenty of character. There have been character builders that have been fine. Some hairstyles I like. Those exist, but not in any level that no game has ever been satisfactory ever.
Right.
Like
when you think of like, oh, sorry. Continue this.
No, I was just saying, like, even Baird from Final Fantasy, even he plays into a stereotype that is a little sometimes frustrating to deal with.
100%. Absolutely. And when you think of like just iconic video game directors like Hideo Kojima, Miyazaki, fucking like Cory Barlog from the guy who worked on like God of War, Cliffy B, Eric Levine, I love Cliffy B. I love how like uncensored he is on Twitter. But like all of these guys, and God of War is fucking metal as fuck. But and Unreal Tournament and all that shit. But like all of the people I just listed off are all like white or
dudes,
Asian. It's you're absolutely right. Like we don't have the appeal of video games. We just don't have it.
It's really hard to look at.
Black folk, by the way, don't forget there are like indigenous people that exist there are like Middle Eastern and Indian people that exist.
Yep.
There are tons of groups besides just black people that get ignored. I don't want to. I know that we're taking the spotlight because I'm black, and I can talk about my experience.
It's America, so I feel like we're probably owed the most to Loki.
I mean, I'm just gonna say like Prince of Persia games. I mean, okay, I'll be honest. I haven't played very many of them, but like as someone who's half Persian,
Didn't they have a white guy play him in the movie though? So that
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah,
count.
Jake
Fuck
Gyllenhaal. That's
that
wild.
shit.
Nope.
Yeah,
That shit was
that
wild.
hit-
I can't believe they did that.
for Prince of Persia, and then there's the fucking movie 300, right?
They put the spray tan on him and
Fuck
everything. That
both
shit was
of
crazy as hell.
Yep.
Pisses me the fuck off. Like
That shit
if
was
you
crazy as hell.
talk about either of those movies, and I can go into a diatribe about this shit. Like it's like just having like freaking like let's have Tom Cruise be the Last Samurai too while we're at it. You know what I
Oh
mean?
my god.
Like
That
fuck
was.
this.
I mean, I
all
like
this.
The Last Samurai, but that's again because
I've never
it's
seen
a
it, but
character
I
I can
wanted
relate
to-
to. I know it's problematic. But there is
Yeah.
there's one. Yeah, it's like the white savior, right? Like, oh yeah, he sided with the samurai and fought against the guys he once worked for. It's like, oh yeah, cool, white guy like doing the right thing. It's problematic as fuck. But there is one there is one studio.
Josh wants to like save all of us.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't make fun of you.
No, it's like yeah, look like it's another one of those like those characters I
Lawbreakers.
grew up with that I was like, fuck yeah.
I was gonna say,
and now it's like,
Lawbreakers was one of my favorite games, but they had a stereotype. The one of the black dudes was like the super cop on the law team on Lawbreakers.
yep. There's one black studio head that I want to shout out. It's Jace Hall. He's actually the founder of Monolith Productions, which used to create some of my favorite games back in the day. And recently, I think they made the Shadow of War, Lord of the Rings games, and all that fun
Oh,
stuff.
and there's Mike Poole as well from Cyberpunk from CD Projekt Red, right?
I'm not familiar with the studio heads over there, but
I think he's the
believe
writer.
that.
I'm not sure if he's a studio head.
I've heard the name Jace Hall before. Why do I know that name?
He's kind of fallen off. He's no longer associated with Monolith. He's currently the CEO of a Twin Galaxies, which he's kind of like in more of the Twitch streaming like influencer world now. He fell off a little bit because I think he sold Monolith and made bank and just went off and tried to do his own thing. But he did the I Play WoW music video.
Yes, that's what it was.
Yeah.
That's
Pretty
what it
cool.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
And
Cool.
he also worked on some TV shows and he's been all over the place. But
Nice.
I wanted to shout out Jace Hall because I've always been a big fan of his
Good
work.
job. Good job.
No, word.
Oh,
So yeah, we did it.
Hey, other white people in the audience, do you see that? Do you see what he did? That's called being an ally. That's how you be an ally right there. Using this platform to shout out us. Look at you.
You did it. Just want to like reach across and like you did it.
No, I fucks with them.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us on, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, it's been awesome talking with you guys.
Hell yeah.
I mean, even just like the nostalgic shit.
Thanks
I would
for
love to
coming.
have you guys back on.
Yeah, no, so when we were first conceiving of the show back in February, we all did a panel. It was Katarana's
Black History Month
Black
panel.
History Month panels. Like it was every Tuesday, and we were hanging out. I'm like, holy shit, we gotta do this. And I've been meaning to get I was trying to get I wanted everything to line up, be perfect, whatever else, and just the way things go, it never is. So I was like, all right, well, let's just do it. Let's just and we need to do this more often for sure because we got so many things to talk about. Still, we barely scraped the layer.
Oh, barely, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to go back and talk about like Unreal and all of
Yes.
these games, but we'll have you guys
Real
back on. And
shit, bro.
I love those games.
Yeah. Definitely.
Before we let you go, Aston, is there anything that you want to like shout out before we take off?
Yeah, I gotta put up my posters for it, but Juneteenth is coming around. You're gonna see some stuff that I do. I'm really bad at this. I'm sorry. Shout out to my channel, Aston Mack TV. You can check me out there. We just started a little Discord, so if you want to join our Discord, sometimes I watch like anime. Speaking of anime, we do anime intro fight nights where we pair your favorite anime in one specific genre, and we see which intro is the best. And we do a lot of praxis. So like we're building a community garden right now, so you'll be seeing a lot of that. So check me out, guy. I do stuff.
Hell yeah. Let me see if I can find that link and link it in chat to the
I
YouTube
got
channel.
this.
You said, oh, perfect. Awesome.
Wait, YouTube chat. Oh, I did the shout out. Sorry, go ahead, do the thing you were gonna do. Sorry.
Wait, what?
I threw you off. I threw you off kilter.
You
It's
did
fine.
throw me
I didn't mean
off.
to. I didn't mean to.
I'm
See,
going to try to find
This is why we need Mike.
the
yeah.
YouTube channel.
Sorry, Nightbot. Hold on. Or sorry about Nightbot. Hold on. I got you, Alina. I got you.
Oh, perfect.
I'm the worst.
Nightbot does that all the time. We gotta
Nightbot's
punish
wild.
Nightbot.
Because Nightbot's a fucking cop.
Yeah. I mean, true. All right, hold on. This is.
Who did we hire for
Aston's
Nightbot?
Discord.
Like, what is it talking about? Hiring the right people. Allie,
Yeah, you need a diversity hire this. It'll.
We got a shitty bot.
I mean,
Endless Cemetery. Why can't he be Daybot?
Oh, true. Endless Cemetery.
Sunless bot.
Give us your shout out. Give us all the socials you want. you want to point to.
Yeah, sure. I'm. I guess the simplest thing. I think I still have endlesscemetery.com, but if not, twitch.tv/endlesscemetery. That's all E's. That's usually where I am. I co-host a podcast. We have been kind of late on episodes. We've only done like 2 episodes since we did our last interview, I think. So that should be out, but it's the Bolsheviks podcast. That's BALTSHEVIKS. And yeah, I'm pretty much Endless Cemetery everywhere else. Facebook, Endless Cemetery Games, YouTube, Endless Cemetery, fucking Twitter, MF Endless.
And you said you do some writing too?
Yeah, right now I'm working on I'm doing so I kind of dabbled, I guess, a little bit in like Twitch politics. We did the panels in February, the Black History Month panels, which were really cool. And I want to do like more focused stuff. And one of the things I wanted to do is like I really wanted to look at Baltimore and examine Baltimore from like a worker's perspective, like a black worker's perspective. And the neighborhood that I grew up in also happened to be one of the most important like early railroad towns. So I've just been kind of filming B-roll and working on like showing that. And also I've been getting back into doing like video game music and stuff. And just music in general. But I mainly just play Hunt Showdown on Twitch.
Oh yeah.
And read headlines and stuff and react to like links and stuff people show me.
Yeah.
And accurately predict the future.
I do.
Yeah.
I think one of the goals of this show or podcast, or whatever you want to call it, is to connect just people in the gaming community, especially in game dev. So
Sweet.
Hopefully there's going to be a point where if anyone ever wants to be like consultated on any of the character, like before they release another character diversity fucking chart, maybe consult the right people, and same with their stories and the character bios and all that stuff. So maybe there'll be a point where I can connect you guys with the people actually
That'd be
writing
sweet.
stuff.
Building any kind of bridges is cool. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I was gonna say I'm like the wrong person because they're gonna like consult me for like diversity, and all of my principles are gonna go out the window, and I'm just gonna beg them for a new armor core. Like, I'll be like, give me a new armor core, give me a medical. I don't care. But what about diversity? I don't care. Snake, or armor core.
Do new Extreme G. Just let me do music for it. You guys can do whatever you want.
What we could do, actually, if you guys want, you guys can DM me stuff to just like whatever socials or events you guys have coming up, and we'll get into the weekly stand-up Twitter account, and then Jess can like retweet, and we can do all of the other stuff. So we'll get that going, and that'll also help with like networking and whatnot.
Yeah,
in terms of who we're gonna raid, I noticed that you guys weren't streaming this right now. we do have an ally, a good friend who is streaming right now, the Kevin FM. We've been hanging out with him quite a
Ooh.
bit.
I thought we were gonna raid Amaranth. Is that? Are we not doing that anymore?
Are you looking to get? You know what?
I'd be into it.
So I'm gonna hit this enter button. I don't get the snark available. My resources are limited right now.
I
No,
missed the memo. I thought we were raiding Amaranth.
One day we can raid Amaranth. I'm sure she'll very much appreciate it. In fact, you know what? Why don't we have some viewers gift her a sub to the channel so she can see what we've been talking
don't
about?
do that.
And Papa Hassan, even kind of giving Hassan a lot
Hassan
of...
and Amaranth do not fucking need our.
Just anyone who feels like doing it up, just let them know we exist. Anyway, thank you so much everyone for watching. I'll see you guys next week. I've got some super cool secret things that I can't talk about because I don't know if it's going to happen yet, but if it does happen, I'll have it for next week and I'll tweet about it and stuff. But in the meantime, I have to vague post this. Anyway, bye everyone! Take care!
Deal.
Hey! Alright, I'm just going to keep doing this until the button happens. And then
now
that this... Okay, I didn't hit end stream yet. Does anybody want to talk shit about Dylan Burns real quick?
There he goes.
And now we'll stop hitting the